The one who spoke was the uncle. The uncle was very strong and tall. He seemed to be the father of the little girl named Avina. He was wearing a black suit and looked like a macho man. This time, the whole family was going on a trip together. Our little Avina was very happy. Her parents were aristocrats, which meant that Avina rarely had the chance to play with her parents. Now that she finally had the chance, she couldn't miss it. Dad, is the Bozip village you mentioned fun? Of course. That's the place where your mother and I fell in love. As his father spoke, a blissful expression unconsciously appeared on his face. But Dad, it's so scary. His body was as strong as a beast, so his complicated expression naturally made him look ferocious. Unlike Reynolds, who took a horse carriage to save money, Avina and her family took a horse carriage purely to enjoy the scenery along the way. There were only uneven holes and stones of different sizes on the dirt road in the mountains. Horse carriages from 12 years ago couldn't withstand such bumps and could only rest after a while. It was very troublesome. Croak, croak, Avina crawled on the ground and looked at a frog in front of her who was staring at her. It's actually able to fight me to a standstill. It's really hiding its strength. That was Avina's evaluation of the frog in the puddle. On the other side, Avina's parents were sitting in the shade of a tree. The beautiful woman was leaning on the uncle's shoulder. Nothing could be more beautiful. Dear, I'm so worried. The beautiful woman actually revealed a distressed expression. Don't worry. When the time comes, I'll protect you and your mother well. The uncle gently kissed the beautiful woman's forehead, then stood up and shouted at Aina, "Little princess, let's hurry on our way. It's getting dark." "Oh, got it," Avina replied unhappily. "All right, my little princess. Why don't I bring you to eat something delicious tonight?" "Really?" Avina said happily, but then coughed. "Ahem, since you're so sincere, this princess will let you off this time. Remember, there won't be a next time." Later, the family arrived at the Bozip village that her parents had been talking about before evening. Things didn't develop as Avina had expected. After arriving at the post house, the first thing her parents did was to ask Avina to wait in the room. They even gave her a very big apple candy that they had just bought by the roadside and said that they would be busy with work and would be back soon. Although Avina was a little unhappy, she was still very sensible and let her parents go to work. However, when they left, their backs were full of gloom. After a while, something terrible happened. AI Wayna could hear the incessant cries and curses from the outside. Although she didn't know what was going on, the shadows cast by the fire outside through the paper window gave AI Wayna a very fearful feeling. "Over there, don't let him run away. Help!" These were the two sentences that appeared the most frequently outside. Fear made Avina hide under the table, not daring to make a sound or move. The only thing she could feel was the temperature brought about by her trembling body. Suddenly, with a pong, the door was directly broken open by a very powerful force. Avina prayed. Chapter 617. Beautiful Avina. It was a familiar voice. The beautiful Avina quickly crawled out from under the table, her eyes filled with tears. She wanted to throw herself into her father's arms, but she found that his body was covered with wounds, and the smell of blood made it difficult for her to get close. Just as the beautiful Avina was stunned, the uncle's father directly went forward to hug the beautiful Avina and jumped out of the window on the other side. Wait a minute, this is jumping out of the window. She was greeted by a vast sky and a hurried forest. The beautiful Avina inadvertently glanced at the scene in Bozip village. That scene could only be described as a massacre. The people in the village were being chased, and some were even lying down. Her father consciously used his sleeve to block the beautiful Avina's view, but she would never forget it. The uncle's strength was also very strong, and his muscles were enough to support him for a long time. The beautiful Avina did not dare to open her eyes, and could only hear the screams around her. Unknowingly, the beautiful Avina suddenly found that her surroundings had become very quiet, and then she felt her whole body being placed on the ground. The beautiful Avina opened her eyes and found that she was in the same forest as before. Her father was panting, half kneeling on the ground and panting. "Dad, Beautiful Avina, listen to me. The uncle's tone was very firm as he interrupted the beautiful Avina. Beautiful Avina, you must grow up well in the future and study hard. Don't tease the dog next door, and don't secretly change Uncle Zhang's medicine to candy. The more he spoke, the more the uncle's expression gradually melted and revealed his expectations for the future, or perhaps for his daughter to grow up. Remember, don't let the teacher find you again. Your mother always thinks that I have an affair with that Annie. Dad, the beautiful Avina choked, but the strong girl would not cry. She would not cry. All right, don't be emotional. Your mother is still waiting for me inside. The uncle stroked the beautiful Avina's short black hair and tried his best to put on a smile that the beautiful Avina would not be too worried about. Keep this well. One day, we will meet again because of this. The uncle very carefully took out, no, it was more accurate to say that he took out a somewhat rusty round badge. It was about the size of a palm, and one could still see the golden dragon pattern on the edge. In the middle of the badge was a seemingly flat blue gem. There were some faint gray stains on the gem, but one could still see the light it emitted. The uncle forcefully shoved the badge into the beautiful Avina's hand and left. It was a decisive farewell. After that, the beautiful Avina never saw her parents again. After that, he had never been able to find any information about Bossip Village. It was as if it had never existed. After that, the Avina, Ina, was the Avina, Ina, and became an outcast, the Avina, Ina, the Avina, Ina after that. She came to magic school. After that, a visitor named Reynolds changed everything. All right then, follow me closely. To be honest, Reynolds was somewhat moved by the beautiful Avina's experience. Although he could make a rough guess based on the information he had gathered, when he heard the truth with his own ears, he could not help but be shocked. The beautiful Avina lowered her head and followed behind Reynolds. Do you know that Natalia was also a victim of Bossip Village? No. The beautiful Ina shook her head. Her eyes were filled with a hint of struggle. What about Natalia? 12 years ago, she was fortunate enough to live in Bossip Village. In the end, on the day you arrived, a disaster happened. Don't you think that's a coincidence? Reynolds pretended to be mysterious, his words obviously hinting at something. The beautiful Avina naturally understood the meaning behind it. Although she did not agree with Reynolds's point of view, based on the information she had gathered so far, there was no doubt that the disaster was related to the arrival of the beautiful Avina's family. Why did the mysterious killer attack the beautiful Avina's family when they were traveling? Why did Bossip Village get massacred? Why did her parents ask her to obediently wait in her room? Even, what was that slightly rusty golden badge? All these questions were like mountains pressing down on the beautiful Avina's heart, making it difficult for her to forget. Beautiful Avina, although I don't want to say this, as a teacher, I have the duty to remind you that it's best not to worry about your parents. I believe that they will be safe. She did not know why Reynolds's personality had changed recently. Although part of the reason was due to his identity as a teacher, she still felt that something was wrong. Putting this aside, the two continued to walk forward. After a few steps, they stopped. Reynolds touched the air in front of them, and immediately ripples spread out like water in all directions. It's here, Reynolds murmured. The beautiful Avina looked at Reynolds in confusion, but she remained silent and did not speak much. Haven't you noticed? We've been walking for so long and still haven't arrived. Reynolds turned to look at the beautiful Avina. There's a barrier here. The beautiful Avina's pupils shrank, as if she had thought of something. Could it be? That's right. This is a man-made concealment barrier. It can separate a specific target from the surrounding space, and then achieve the concealment magic. As expected, Reynolds gently touched the beautiful Avina's forehead with his right index finger and cast a rune between her eyebrows that could cancel out the concealment barrier. Then he turned around and waved his hand, indicating for them to move forward. In the beautiful Avina's eyes, Reynolds only took a few steps forward and then disappeared. While she was in a daze, the beautiful Avina hurriedly walked forward, After a sudden sense of weightlessness, the first thing that greeted them was not the image brought by their vision, but the strong smell of blood provided by their sense of smell. The scene inside the invisible barrier was completely different from the scene outside. Broken pieces of wood were inserted into the soil, and the blood of the villagers of Seawing Village had mixed with the soil that raised them. The black soil, walking into the barrier, Reynolds and Natalia were directly in front of the gate of Seawing Village. The lively little village in their memories was so lonely now. Chapter 6:18. The houses made of straw were mottled with dried blood, and the walls were densely covered with sharp scratches. There were many intersecting paths in the village, but now it was hard to tell which one was which because of the overgrown weeds. After walking a few steps through the gate, Natalia suddenly ran to a seemingly roadside hawker's cart, but it was already broken beyond recognition. "I bought candy apples here." Natalia lowered her head and murmured, "I remember when my parents first brought me here, they bought a big candy apple here to give me some peace." Reynolds was a little sad, but in order to ease the current atmosphere, he could only try to comfort her. I don't know how to comfort people at all." "What's wrong?" Natalia asked simply. "What should I say? What would Croatia say? Is that candy apple delicious?" What am I talking about? That idiot from Croatia." In the midst of the awkwardness, to Reynolds' surprise, Natalia burst into laughter. This was the first time he had ever seen Natalia laugh. "I'm fine. Don't worry about it." Oh, although he said so, he was actually still worried in his heart. The two walked along the only main road in the village, which was a little like a huge centipede. The road under their feet was its body, and the endless paths were like its terrifying limbs. The houses built on this foundation were also the shells that resisted external forces. The broken houses around them were obviously densely covered with knife and sword marks. Suspiciously, it seemed that no matter where they looked, they couldn't find any remaining corpses, which was really puzzling. This looked like an abandoned village. Reynolds stopped and put his hands on his waist. His head was slightly lowered, and his white hair was in front of his eyes, showing a very distressed expression. "Natalia, have you met the demon race here before?" "You? How do you know?" Natalia was stunned for a moment. "Hurry up and answer me," Reynolds shouted in a slightly domineering tone. Oh, it was Natalia's first time seeing Reynolds so angry. "After my father sent me to a safe place, he asked me to go home alone. I kept walking along that road. When I was hungry, I ate the wild vegetables by the roadside. When I was thirsty, I drank the occasional stream." At this point, Natalia's tone became a little weak. "I walked like this for 5 days and 5 nights. All I saw along the way were endless forests and many ferocious beasts." Taking a deep breath, he continued, "But I didn't expect that all these difficulties didn't defeat me. What defeated me was actually my own body. The lack of water, the alternating heat and cold seemed to have exceeded the limits of my body. On the 6th day, I collapsed on a road." Reynolds looked at Natalia and regretted his impulsive attitude just now. "Just as I was about to faint, a red-haired woman who was covered in wounds and blood walked out from a bush nearby. She asked me if I wanted to live." "So you said you wanted to?" Reynolds interrupted. "Yes," Natalia answered, feeling a little ashamed. I don't mean to look down on you. When one's life is in danger, it's human nature to want to continue living. If I were you, I would have said the same thing." Natalia's face turned red. "What's wrong with you?" "Nothing. I'm fine. I just feel much better after hearing what you said." "And then? What about the red-haired woman? How do you know she's a demon?" "Oh, well, in theory, there's actually no difference between a demon and a human, but the red-haired woman has 2 black horns that are as long as index fingers on both sides of her forehead. She also emits a very strong, murderous aura. My intuition tells me that she's a demon." "Red hair, black horns, could it be? Tell me more details." Reynolds grabbed Natalia's shoulders and said anxiously, "Does the red-haired woman have any other characteristics?" "Let me think." Natalia subconsciously supported her right elbow with her left arm and then supported her chin with her right fist. "That woman is very flirtatious." "Yes, very flirtatious. Her skin is a little dark." Oh, that's all I can remember. Okay. Reynolds had a rough idea in his heart. Haha. Reynolds suddenly burst into laughter. Renault's strange behavior startled Natalia. Sorry. Haha. I just feel that you've changed a lot recently. I just feel that you've become a lot more cheerful since you came here. Hey, don't go. Hey, let's go back, okay? I'll give you carrots to eat, okay? At this moment, the beautiful Avina was sitting on Hua Kai's shoulder and complaining from time to time. Due to Croatia's restless request, Hua Kai and the beautiful Avina were also forced to come out in the middle of the night. The location of Humlung village was originally located in a relatively remote place in the human world, let alone in an even more remote forest, so it directly caused the surrounding air to be extremely cold. Stop complaining. Such a big forest. There must be a lot of treasures that can't be found. But no buts. Be careful, or I'll tell Mr. Reynolds that you secretly ate his experimental results. Oh. The beautiful Avina cast an expectant look at Hua Kai with her small red bean-like eyes, and Hua Kai also understood the beautiful Avina's thoughts. Croatia, don't you feel that the surrounding temperature is a little abnormally low? Now that you mention it, it does seem a little cold. Croatia stopped and began to rub his arms with his palms. Yeah, although it's not too far away from winter now, it feels like falling into an ice cave. Hey, then let's go back, okay? Oh, Croatia seemed to be a little shaken. But maybe there's a treasure in front of us. Tcia. Huakai deliberately dragged out the word. Oh, okay, let's go back. Croatia compromised. Before leaving, she looked back at the forest in front of her reluctantly, because she always felt that there was an incredible treasure there. Chapter 619. Following the footsteps they had taken, the situation was more serious than they had imagined. They were in a forest, and their sense of direction was completely useless here. They could only follow the footsteps left behind. Hey, Avina, don't you think it's strange? Yes, indeed. Avina seemed to have noticed something too. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Are you talking about the fruits on the tree? It's too late to climb the tree. Don't even think about it. Natalia said proudly. No. Didn't you notice? There's another strange footprint following our footprints, and it's intermittent, as if it's being watched by something, Avina said calmly. Now that you mention it, it does seem to be true. Natalia walked to one of the footprints and thought for a moment with her limited brain. Look at these densely packed holes. There should be more than one creature. Avina also walked to the side of these strange footsteps and put her right hand under her chin. This should be a spider. Spider. Upon hearing the word spider, Natalia immediately broke out in a cold sweat. Spiders were the animals she was most afraid of since she was a child. Long legs with many joints joined together, coupled with small and dense eyes. Just thinking about it made her feel disgusted. It was at this moment that a rustling sound came from the bushes beside them. Quick, get behind me! Albai shouted in its very coquettish voice and immediately jumped down from Avina's shoulder. With a whoosh, it instantly expanded to a size several times larger than Natalia and Avina combined. It shielded Natalia and Avina behind it. Albai, although she was very surprised, Natalia knew that it was not the right time to ask about these things, because the rustling sound was getting more and more frequent, as if there were countless unknown creatures moving in a circle with them as the center. Be careful. Be careful, Avina shouted. Everyone followed Avina's line of sight and saw an enormous black spider that was nearly 3 meters long right above their heads. There were 8 blood-red eyes on its head, and each of the eyes was dozens of centimeters long. The 8 eyes neatly filled the top and bottom of its round and big head. Its legs were like twisted pillars pieced together by a pile of steel bars, and its body was covered in long black hair. Even ordinary people would be disgusted by it, let alone Natalia, who was afraid of spiders. The giant black spider kept crawling on the branches of the surrounding trees. With its extraordinary jumping ability, it left spider silk everywhere. Soon, the spider silk turned into a semicircular spider web that covered Natalia, Avina, and Albai. On the other side, Natalia and the other two could only watch helplessly because they were surrounded. Not only did the giant spider bring an indescribable sense of oppression, but there were also countless small spiders. They were like a pack of wolves that would gather together and act as a group with a leader. Ka. Sounds kept coming from the surroundings. A black mass of creatures crawled out from under the leaves, then from the soil, and some even came out from the remains of animals. The giant black spider was like the leader of the pack. It commanded all the small spiders to attack, and it waited for an opportunity. Two people and one rabbit formed a triangular formation with their backs facing each other, completely entrusting their backs to each other. "Bye, can we?" Natalia asked. "Don't underestimate me." "Avina?" "Yes." More and more small spiders appeared, and there was almost no green in the surroundings. There were only black spiders, and occasionally there were some red spiders that were especially poisonous. Natalia took out the magic sword on her back. This trip was in the name of treasure hunting, so how could it be justified without a weapon? Abai saw that Natalia was ready for battle, and immediately took a deep breath and increased its size by several times. The emotional rabbit did not have much fighting power, so it could only rely on increasing or decreasing its size to resist the enemy. Charge! Using its huge body, Abai tried its best to shrink itself into a ball and then rolled over. Although the move looked very primitive and crude, one had to admit that it was very effective. When Natalia saw that Abai had crushed so many small spiders with one blow, her desire to win rose. After adding a simple fire attribute to her magic sword, she rushed to Abai's side to harvest the spiders. "Natalia, wait!" Before Avina could finish, Natalia rushed in. Avina's magic attribute was water. Unlike Natalia, she could not use magic of other attributes due to some special reasons. The 3,000 families were a family of magicians and were famous for their powerful magic. However, the more powerful and the larger the range of the spell, the longer the chant. Obviously, it was not suitable for this situation. Turn the hard into the soft, the power of nature. Water whip. Avina held her breath and gathered a large amount of water from the ground to form 2 3-meter-long whips. She held one in each hand and lashed out at the spiders. Fluttering silver feathers, entrusted with the thoughts of the heart. There will always be people who seek the other side of the dream. Spread your wings, wings of heaven. Natalia kept running through the open space, using the constant running to buy time for herself to chant the spell. Huge silver wings gradually took shape on Natalia's back. The intensely concentrated wind attribute energy even cut the small spiders around into powder. Finally, the silver wings formed, and a green light accompanied Natalia, illuminating the surroundings. Perhaps the strong light stimulated the huge black spider hanging high in the air, but it actually let out a particularly ear-piercing, high-frequency sound. "Be careful! It's stimulated!" Avina shouted. The huge spider took a deep breath and then directly spat at Natalia. Thanks to Avina's warning, Natalia glided back in the air, avoiding the entanglement of the spider's web. "Abai, can you deal with the small spiders on the ground?" "This can my ass. There's so many spiders. Even if you divide me up, it won't be enough to fill the gaps between their teeth." Avina jumped onto Abai's back. "Natalia and I will take care of the big spider. You take care of the small ones." Chapter 620. Natalia used her celestial wings to dive in midair, concentrating all her strength on the tip of her sword and stabbing at the big spider. Damn it, so many spider webs are in the way. While they were dealing with the small spiders, the big spider had taken the opportunity to transform the surrounding environment into a spider cave. Countless spider webs wrapped around the trees, creating a very strange scene. TSK. It's so hard. Natalia used 80% of her strength to attack the back of the giant spider, but the effect was negligible. She didn't even leave a white mark on it. Avina, my physical attacks are useless against it. Avina used the water whip in her hand to fling away the small spiders that were crawling up Abai's long hair. "Natalia, buy me some time." "Okay. Hey, can you guys hurry up?" These spiders are crawling on my body. So disgusting, Abai said as it stepped on the surrounding spiders. Okay, stop complaining. Bear with it a little longer. Avina sat cross-legged on Abai's head. Her previous position had already been lost, and now only this part of Abai's body was safe. The other parts were already crawling with spiders. Wow, these spiders are so disgusting. Don't go into my ears. All things are made of water. 1 into 2, 2 into 3, shapeless and formless, moving according to one's will. If man can't do it, nature can't do it either, even if, hey, Natalia, what's wrong with Avina? What are you mumbling about? Are you scared out of your wits? Abai said, You idiot. Haven't you heard singing before? Damn it, I almost got hit. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Hey, do you need singing when you use magic? Why doesn't Reynolds use it? The giant black spider was getting impatient under Natalia's constant harassment. It was as if there was a fly constantly bothering it. Although it knew that the fly could not do any harm to it, it was still uncomfortable for it to stick to it like a sticky candy. Fierce flames are burning now. Charge straight ahead. Fire. Natalia gathered her essence and swung a flame slash at the big spider. Under the enhancement of magic power, the flame ran wildly in the shape of a crescent moon. When it was 3 meters away from the big spider, it suddenly accelerated and turned into a roaring lion. Its fur was blazing hot and swayed in a state of erection under the steaming heat. Boom! The flame slash struck the large spider's head, but it was in accordance with the law of smoke and no damage. The large spider did not seem to have suffered any damage. TSK, it's too difficult. Avina, are you done? Yes. After answering Natalia briefly, Iwina continued with her magic incantation. This big spider in front of me shouldn't be a magical beast. It hunts purely based on its instincts, but Iwina swallowed her breath. But I've never heard of a beast spider beast. Even Natalia's attack was almost ineffective. Heaven's clarity, water's clarity, pure and white, indifferent and non-existent. What kind of magic is Avina chanting? I've never seen it before. Water can capsize a boat, but it can also capsize a boat. Monstrous waves plunder thousands. River of blood. As Avina chanted the last part of her spell, the small spiders around her suddenly quieted down. They were like marionettes that had lost their strings, standing there in a daze without moving. Suddenly, after 2 seconds, dense cracks began to appear on the spiders' bodies. This phenomenon then spread to all the smaller spiders. There was a slight sound of boiling, and in the next second, the spiders with Aina as the center exploded outwards, emitting a faint white steam from their corpses. Natalia looked at Avina in shock. Avina stood up a little shakily, and there was even some blood flowing from the corner of her mouth. Avina! Natalia rushed over as fast as she could to catch the dizzy Avina. Avina, what's wrong? Natalia's voice was a little hoarse. She was afraid that something had happened to Avina. I'm fine. It's just that the magic consumption is a little high. Avina stood up unsteadily, ignoring Natalia's obstruction as she walked to the front of the large spider. There's one last step. There's still one last step. Avina walked to the front of the large spider. She did not know why, but the large spider was in the same state as the small spiders before. It was in a sluggish state. Avina, don't force yourself. You've already used up too much of your magic. Such a large amount of magic. That's right. Avina, your body won't be able to take it like this. Abai saw Avina's weak state and was immediately worried. It's over. If anything happens to this girl, Reynolds will skin me alive. Enough, Avina shouted. Abai doesn't have any attack power, and Natalia's attack can't penetrate it. What else can we do? Natalia and Abai were suddenly choked and speechless. But you can't use magic like this. And what's with that spell of yours? Why haven't I seen you use it before? That's the study of creation. Study of creation? Is that what Reynolds was talking about? That's right. Teacher Reynolds told me a little about this study of creation, and then I had a lot of understanding of magic. The freezing spell and blood sea just now were spells that I modified. Roar, boom. The large spider, which was originally frozen, suddenly let out a roar, and its many legs made a discordant cracking sound from its joints. Blood Sea, Seal of Death. Avina took advantage of the fact that the freezing spell was still in effect and immediately raised her hand to draw a blood-red talisman in the air. A thick smell of blood filled the air, and even some black blood in the small spider's body gathered and flowed towards the talisman. Huh. Avina used the last of her strength to gently push the talisman towards the only surviving large spider. Although the talisman was not as fast as the small spider, it was fortunate that the large spider was now in a state where it could not move. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for the talisman to hit it. Splash! The talisman splashed a bunch of water droplets as soon as it came into contact with the large spider's shell, and then continued to merge into the spider's body at the same speed as before. Roar! The spider let out an extremely sharp, ear-piercing sound. Its shell, which even Natalia could not do anything about before, had many finger-thick cracks in a very short period of time. Its whole body was twitching, and the sound of its shell cracking could be heard. Chapter 6:21. I heated up the water in its body. The huge amount of water vapor should be able to destroy its body from the inside. Avina, you're so amazing, Natalia exclaimed as she looked at the wobbly spider. Avina, Natalia turned her head. Just as she was about to say something, Avina seemed to have lost her balance and fell. Natalia's figure flashed and caught her. I'm fine. I just ran out of magic. What's up with that spell of yours? It's the first time I've seen you use it. That. It's careful. Natalia suddenly shouted. Roar, roar. Before everyone could calm down, the giant spider, which they thought was completely dead, started to move again. It's a little strange. Avina jumped back. The spider's body seemed to be stuck as it tried to get up. The strange thing was that even though most of its 8 huge limbs had been broken by Natalia's magic, it seemed to be completely unaware of the pain as it struggled to get up. So disgusting. The blood dripping from the spider's wounds emitted a very faint black mist, and there was also the smell of rotting corpses. Every joint of the spider's limbs was twitching irregularly. This made Avina and the others feel a sense of horror that they had never felt before. Careful! A ball of black blood from the spider was flung over. My butt! Unfortunately, Avina's reaction seemed to be a little too late. The white fur on her was corroded into a few small holes. My innocence! Avina immediately covered her, but with her chubby paws. But before everyone could calm down, the ground shook violently again. Then, 3 huge mounds of earth appeared beside Avina and Natalia's feet. Judging from the size, they seemed to be similar to the crazed spider in front of them. Could it be not good? Avina took a deep breath and dashed to Avina's side. She carried the 2 of them and jumped onto a big tree behind them. The 3 mounds bulged once again, and as expected, 3 more large spiders broke out of the ground. However, these 3 spiders were even more horrifying. Milky white bones could be seen everywhere on their bodies, and maggots could be seen wriggling in their bloody flesh. What the hell are these 3? The speed of the 3 new zombies was completely incomparable to the twitching one. Before they could react, the 3 of them had already surrounded them. We're surrounded. Awana, Natalia, and Elwana were standing close together, back to back, and each of them had their backs to the other. The atmosphere became even more tense. Natalia swallowed and tilted her head. Let me do it. No. Just as Aina was about to open her mouth to argue, a strange sound was heard. Aina, who had grown bigger, directly sucked the 2 of them into her mouth and then shrunk into a ball of unknown substance. Avina, let us out. If you do this, AI Waina shook her head violently, and the violent shaking caused the 2 people in her mouth to collapse on her tongue. Their mouths were still mumbling something, and because their mouths were closed, their words were very unclear. I'd better translate it. Don't worry, I'm very resistant to beatings. No, Avina quickly refuted Avina. Have you not brushed your teeth for a long time? You'll stink us to death. My family. Avina suddenly fell into silence. Avina and Natalia's hearts tightened. Maybe the three spiders had taken action. Don't hit me, don't hit me. Avina used her two small paws to cover her eyes. Thus, after a while, why haven't they hit me yet? I clearly saw something walking over just now. Wait a moment, it's probably because they're too big and too slow. It seemed that Avina had forgotten about the terrifying speed of the three big spiders just now. Thus, after a while, that's not right. Logically speaking, I should be gnawed into a skeleton by now. That's weird. Avina secretly opened her eyes a little and looked outside through her index and middle fingers. I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death. You even followed them out and ran around. Why can't I kill you? Avina actually saw a familiar figure standing by her feet, and the figure was hitting her. Reynolds, what are you doing? Avina asked a little guiltily. Huh? What are you mumbling about? When Avina saw Reynolds, she was like a fish in water. She immediately spat out Avina and Natalia. Ah, pa, 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 pa. So dirty. How long has it been since you took a bath? Seriously, in order to protect you, I'm risking my life. Huh? Are you speaking human language? No, rabbit language? Avina patted the saliva off her body. Suddenly, she saw a familiar figure standing less than a meter away from her. Ha, isn't this my dearest teacher Reynolds? We didn't run out to play. This is a field trip. Yes, a field trip. Avina brought me and Natalia out. Avina said with a little guilty conscience. Oh, is that so? Natalia, you're the most obedient. Tell me the truth. It's Avina. Goodbye, Avina. We'll cherish the radishes you leave behind. Ditto. Avina, have you had enough fun? Renaud greeted AI Wayna jokingly. But with his fake smile, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that something good had happened. Reynolds, listen to me. Avina suddenly realized something and covered her mouth with her two front paws. Woo, 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 woo. Reynolds seemed to have understood something. I was wondering why the golden carrot I was studying the other day was gone. It turns out that you secretly ate it. How is it? Are you happy to be able to talk? Woo, woo, squeak, woo. Avina saw that her usual trick, acting coquettishly, was useless. She immediately thought of another way. Oh my, I'm also dearest Sir Reynolds. I won't hide it from you. Look. It's these three big spiders and the one twitching on the ground over there. They cause us a lot of trouble. You have to avenge us. I know. That's why I tied them up. Reynolds slapped his forehead and sighed. Forget it. I'll deal with you when we get back. Chapter 622. Reynolds's expression changed. He clenched his left hand into a claw, and the thin threads that were tied around his 5 fingers emitted a strong white light. The other end of the threads was connected to the 3 large spiders. If Reynolds did not take the initiative to attack, Avina would not be able to notice these threads for the rest of her life. I've never seen these spiders before. I could take them back and study them. Open. Reynolds waved his left hand, and instantly 3 dark discs of the same size appeared above the heads of the 3 large spiders. Countless dazzling white threads fell from the discs and wrapped around their bodies. No matter how desperate the spider screamed, it was useless. The spiders were directly pulled into the discs. As for the spider that suddenly twitched crazily, it was also taken away by the discs. Are you okay? Reynolds turned around and asked Avina and Natalia. I'm fine, Avina replied. I'm not asking you. Inside the house that Reynolds built, Lilith, who had been sent back to her room by Reynolds, had just returned to her room when Reynolds said, You go back and wait. I'll go look for them. I'm a little thirsty. Alice picked up the glass of water on the table, intending to drink it in one gulp. But at that moment, I'm back. Avina suddenly kicked the door open. Splash! Alice, why are you spraying water? This is water magic. I'm practicing the new magic I learned. I'm back too. I'm back. Ditto. Natalia, Avina, and Reynolds walked in listlessly. I'm so tired. I'm so sleepy. When Alice saw Avina's dirty mud stains and numerous wounds, she seemed to understand what had happened. Sleep, sleep. I'm so tired. Avina stretched her body and said comfortably. He spoke comfortably, but judging from his eyes, it seemed like he had an ulterior motive. Wait a minute. Are you trying to run away after causing me trouble? Shit. Reynolds looked up at the sky. It's getting late. Look, Eunuch's son has already revealed part of his face. Isn't it time for training? Are you a devil? No. It had been a week since the spider incident. According to Reynolds' original plan, Natalia would be returning home to receive her inheritance at this time tomorrow. What kind of secrets do the 3,000 clans have? What kind of secrets do my heterochromatic pupils have? And why does Teacher Reynolds know about my clan's secrets? Natalia stood by the window in a daze. Her two hands, which were shaped like flowers, silently supported her chin. The glass on the window was made up of some messy elements that Renaud had extracted from plants using magic. It was said to be very environmentally friendly and could be used as a mirror occasionally. It was very convenient. Heterochromatic pupils. Natalia gently placed her hand under her left eye. Indeed, the crystal blue color of her left eye and the light blue color of her right eye had brought some small troubles to Natalia since she was young. For example, she was a freak. She wasn't her parents' biological child, and so on. She had to admit that her imagination was really rich. Natalia. A familiar shout came from outside the door. That idiot is asking you to go find him. Avina, I've told you so many times to respect your teacher. All right. My good student, hurry up and go. Reynolds' room was on the first floor of this large house. When Reynolds had built this house, he had considered many things. Earthquake safety issues, rain, and so on. He had not thought about any of them. There was no other reason why a great demon like him could stay on the first floor. That's right. No one would fight with him for a bed. Reynolds looked around his room with satisfaction. He had a large bed, and sunlight was shining through the slightly yellowish-brown, floor-to-ceiling windows. This feeling comfortable. Renaud couldn't help but stretch. Girls are so gullible. They just used the excuse that there were bugs on the first floor, and they obediently ran to the second floor. At this time, outside the door, oh no, I think I heard something terrible. Natalia's hand, which was about to knock on the door, froze in the air in fright. What should I do? Silencing him? Natalia suddenly thought of the scene of Reynolds using magic threads to tie up the large spider. She blushed and stood there in a daze. After a while, Natalia came back to her senses and knocked on the door. Natalia, why is your face so red? No, nothing. It's just from practicing magic. Ha! Oh, I see. Reynolds stood up and gave Natalia a seat. Do you know why I'm looking for you today? Sigh, back in the day, my teacher often asked me this. Reynolds thought indifferently. As a demon king, he must receive a lot of education before ascending to the throne. Especially for a prince like Reynolds, who was more extroverted, he must be strictly disciplined. You should know. Is it about going home tomorrow? Smart. Reynolds patted Natalia's head. Do you still remember the badge I gave you last time? Yes. Natalia took out the mysterious badge from her pocket that Reynolds had given her last time. After you get home, rest for a day or two and give the badge to your parents. It's a small communication device. I'll explain it to them. Okay, got it. Natalia nodded her head slightly. Your family isn't too far from here. It'll take at least 2 days to get there. Reynolds rested his chin on his hand. Let me see if there's anything else I want to tell them. Right. Reynolds knocked on his forehead. If you have any trouble, use this to contact me. Reynolds turned his palm over and suddenly found a blue crystal the size of a palm out of nowhere. Change. With a tap of his index finger, the crystal shrunk into something the size of 2 fingernails like magic. Reynolds found a silver-white thread and then made a hole. He threaded the thread through and made a very delicate necklace. He hung it around Natalia's neck. Not bad, very nice. Reynolds looked at Natalia, who was wearing the crystal necklace. Her short, dark purple hair, paired with the slightly changing blue crystal, added a touch of purity to her already noble temperament. Really, hearing Reynolds's praise, Natalia was as happy as a blooming flower. Thank you, teacher. With that, Natalia stuck out her little tongue and left. Seeing that Natalia had completely closed the door, Reynolds breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 6:23. Sigh, it's so hard to be a teacher. Since you're so worried about her, why don't you personally help her? Hearing this, AI Wayna complained from the side. There's more. Avina seemed to be gasping for air. Can I rest for a little while? I can't take it anymore. If Natalia hadn't left, and if Natalia had looked carefully at the ceiling, she would have found our poor Avina hanging from the high ceiling, surrounded by dozens of gray iron bars. It was like a small prison in the sky, but in the center of the prison, there was a wheel that was bigger than Avina, and she was running on it. No, it's your fault for eating my golden carrot. That's something I developed to help animals in need. I didn't know. Ha ha ha. Reynolds waved his left hand, and a gust of wind rolled out. The speed of Abai's will increased again. Unfortunately, this invention was meant for animals like squirrels, so Reynolds decided to let Abai experiment with it first. On the second day, Yi Zichin was still alive. Blossom, I'll miss you. Avina. Blossom's voice was trembling, and it was obvious that she didn't want to be separated from everyone. I'll miss the pastries you brought back from Uncle and Auntie. I'll never forget the taste. Before Avina could finish, Blossom walked to Natalia's side. Natalia, I'll bring back a lot of delicious food for you. Oh, thank you. Natalia, who had been alone all this time, seemed a little shy. Perhaps it was because she hadn't gotten used to the special term friend, but she had never felt this way before. Blossom, you must be careful when you go back, Reynolds said. Okay. The farewell scene quickly passed, and after saying goodbye, Blossom sat in a carriage that Reynolds had spent a lot of money to hire. The whole carriage was made of 100-year-old wood, and it could effectively protect against low-level magic attacks. Sigh, it seems I'll have to reduce Avina's food money tomorrow. Avina, it's not that I don't want to teach you creation research. It's that your body isn't suitable at all. What do you mean my body isn't suitable? You only know how to find excuses to brush me off. Don't think I don't know that the creation research you taught Blossom is like adding fuel to the fire. Why don't you teach me? Hey, is this how you add fuel to the fire? After sending Blossom off, Reynolds was faced with a very troublesome problem. Ever since the last time the spider incident, Avina had seen Blossom use the sea of blood. She had been begging Reynolds to teach her creation research. Avina grabbed onto Reynolds' thigh and refused to let go. She couldn't shake him off like a piece of sticky candy. Calm down. Move your face away from my pants. Your saliva is going to get on them. No. If you don't teach me, I won't let you go. Let go. I need to go to the toilet. Hee hee. Did you eat the pudding I put in the cupboard? And no. It should be Blossom. I saw a pudding in her bag when I sent her off yesterday. Oh, really? In order to prevent someone from eating my pudding, I put laxatives in it. So it was you. Reynolds couldn't help but spit. Oomph. Let go of me. I need to go to the toilet. I won't let go. After such a small prelude, Raynor still managed to escape from Avina. Sigh, Avina, this girl. If only she could save me some trouble like Natalia. Natalia seemed to have always regarded the sacred sword dance as a place she yearned for. To improve Natalia's necromancy magic, Reynolds specially brought out the abnormally twitching spider from last time. After many days of unremitting efforts, the spider was already dead. Finally, Reynolds came to a conclusion. As expected, I still have to go there personally. Just as Reynolds was thinking about something, a familiar and frightening voice sounded again. Idiot, I still caught you. In order to escape from Avina, Reynolds used a small space jump magic. Oh my God, you really are. Reynolds had always been the one who made others speechless. This time, he really met his match. Reynolds took a deep breath and thought for a while. Avina, how about I tell you a story? It has something to do with you. What story? I don't want to... As she spoke, Avina suddenly thought of something. Story? Something to do with me? Then, I'll let you go for a story. After you're done, you have to teach me creation research. Reynolds grunted, but it was probably a perfunctory, a long time ago. Hey, I've already used this opening too many times. Don't interrupt. Listen carefully. Reynolds continued. A long time ago, in a magical land, there were 3 huge races, the human race, the demon race, and the beast race. The beast race had the largest number and maintained a neutral state. The demon race had the smallest number but was extremely ferocious. The human race was in the middle and had the highest intelligence. After thousands of years, the human race finally developed into the largest race with their own advantages. Thus, they began to be dissatisfied with their small and barren area and began to invade and expand. Wait a minute, is this our Starry Wish Island? Reynolds did not answer Avina. The human race set their initial target as the demon race because they thought that the demon race was very weak and easy to bully. The war soon began. What the human race did not expect was that the demon race was actually so strong. Both sides had their own advantages and were evenly matched. The situation had been in a stalemate. After a few hundred years, a genius demon king appeared in the demon race. He was extremely handsome and elegant. He could be said to be a hero among men, the king of demons. Reynolds took a deep breath and continued. He relied on his invincibility to instantly change the stalemate of the war that had lasted for 100 years. The situation on the battlefield was once in favor of the demon race. However, later on, a saintess appeared in the human race who could confront the demon king. Saintess? It sounds so familiar. The saintess was obtained by the human race through the power of sacrifice. She herself was the darling of nature. Later, about 100 years ago, the two sides began the final war. The demon king and the saintess fought fiercely. It was difficult for the two sides to maintain the final war, so the two sides signed a treaty and never contacted each other again. Chapter 6:24. Reynolds' story could be described as rhythmic, and with some exaggerated use of words, it was almost a complete reconstruction of the scene at that time. Avina was also a little fascinated by the story. Is what you said true? How would I know if it's true or not? I'm just telling a story. Reynolds spread out his hands and pretended to be indifferent. The history of 100 years ago recorded in the history books is blurry. How do you know all this? Avina was not a fool. On the contrary, she was very clever. It was just that she was not that interested in many things. What does this story have to do with me? Who knows? Reynolds spread out his hands again. AI Wayna was a little angry when she saw Reynolds pretending to be crazy. I won't ask anymore. You can teach me creation research if you want. I'm going to teach myself. After completely getting rid of Avina's entanglement, Reynolds came to Natalia's side. It was early in the morning. There is a saying that the clumsy bird flies first. Once a smart bird like Natalia flew first, it could be said that her future was limitless. Reynolds closed his eyes and sensed Natalia's location according to the waves of magic particles. Here, Reynolds walked for about 5 minutes and came to an open space not far from the house. This was the edge of the southeast corner of the forest. There were no other obstacles to practicing magic here. There was a very dense bush not far in front of him. Reynolds tiptoed and quietly hid behind the bush. He stretched out his two hands and pried open a small gap. Then he put his left eye on it, and the scenery not far away immediately appeared in front of Reynolds. At this moment, Natalia was squatting on one side of the open space and studying something with a magnifying glass. Next to her was the corpse of a spider that was somewhat unrecognizable. The ground was covered in the spider's black blood. It was a bit like a murder scene. No, a murder scene. Yes, Natalia's spirit of not being afraid of hardship and being dirty is praiseworthy. Reynolds gave full recognition to Natalia's learning spirit. He then nodded and continued reading. Natalia was currently using something that resembled a scalpel to draw on the corpse. After a short while, Natalia carved a very clear magic array on the hard shell of the spider. Perhaps it was because Natalia was more proficient in necromancy magic, but all of her movements seemed very practiced and at ease. For such a beautiful girl to make such a move at such a young age, Reynolds felt a little sorry for Natalia when he thought about it. TSK. Reynolds wanted to go out and guide Natalia. Who is it? Natalia roared and shot 3 needles and threads in Reynolds' direction almost instantly. The needles and threads flew extremely fast and arrived in front of Reynolds in the blink of an eye. Tongue, tongue, tongue. Reynolds waved his right index finger, and the three needles and threads seemed to be pulled by something as they bypassed Reynolds and pierced into the trunk of the big tree behind him. "Natalia, it's me." Natalia saw Reynolds and immediately stood up. She patted the soil off her knees and wiped her blood-stained palms on her clothes. "Mr. Reynolds." Reynolds walked to Natalia's side and secretly glanced at the corpse of the big spider over her shoulder. He found that the spider's limbs had already been dissected. Some of the limbs that were a few meters long were only bones left. "What are you doing?" Reynolds was a little impressed by Natalia. "After I came back last time, I did a lot of research, but I couldn't find any information about the spiders you brought back, so I decided to dissect them myself." "Oh, did you find anything?" "I found this when I was dissecting its stomach." As she spoke, Natalia took out a black bead the size of a fingernail from her shirt pocket. Reynolds took the opportunity to take it. In fact, Reynolds also found the same beads in the bodies of the other three spiders, but the color of Natalia's bead was darker. These black beads were inexplicably emitting an unfriendly aura, and this aura was very familiar to Reynolds. The bead was very smooth to the touch, and there was not a trace of blood when it was taken out of the spider's body. It was a little warm. If a child held it in their hands, they would definitely think that it was a small marble. "Mr. Reynolds, look." While Reynolds was concentrating on his thoughts, Natalia suddenly interrupted his train of thought. Natalia walked to the front of the spider's corpse and pushed out her right palm a few centimeters away from the head of the spider. There are two kinds of malicious ghosts, the black and the white impermanents, the king of hell, the book of life and death, the pen of God, change fate. Natalia softly chanted the spell, and a gentle breeze blew by. A black magic formation was formed on the spider's head. Ka! Ka! The spider's corpse suddenly shook, and then its limbs moved. It actually started to sway. Because of the lack of a part of its body structure and the influence of its stiff muscles, the spider's movements were not very smooth. It was like a marionette with a broken string. Every movement would make ka-ka, sounds of bones rubbing against each other. It was very scary. "Natalia." Reynolds called Natalia. "What's wrong?" Natalia stopped the magic control, and the spider's corpse fell down vertically. A cloud of dust was raised. "This spider shell is a very good defensive tool for you." "Yes, but..." "No buts. I know what you're thinking. Is it because it's too big to carry around? It's impossible for you to control it all the time with your current magic reserves." "Yes." Natalia lowered her head in shame. "There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Here." Reynolds raised his right hand and reached into a black disc that appeared in front of him. "Wait a minute. Let me see. There are a lot of things." This black disc was something similar to a mobile warehouse that Reynolds isolated from space using space-time magic. As long as Reynolds had something, he would hide it inside. "That's impossible." "Wait a minute, Natalia." "Yes." Natalia was a little confused. "What's Mr. Reynolds doing?" Reynolds simply stuffed his upper body directly into the black disc. "Found it." Reynolds took out a book that was about 2 fingers thick. Judging from the cover, it seemed to be quite old. "This is a kind of magic that I invented. Take it and learn it. Remember not to teach it to others." Chapter 625. Natalia took the book, flipped open the cover, and skimmed through the general content. "Master, this is too precious. Please take it back." This book was actually a simplified version of Reynolds's black disc. The original black disc was too difficult to learn, so Reynolds simply gave her a simplified version. "It's just a simple space-time magic. What's so precious about it? Take it, be good." In order not to give Natalia a chance to think, Reynolds raised the black beads in his hand. "As an exchange, I'll take this first." With a flicker of his body, he disappeared. Space-time magic was the most advanced category of magic. It was difficult to learn, powerful, and rare. Even Natalia could not resist this temptation. Seeing that Reynolds had left, Natalia sat on the ground with the book in her arms and began to study it. Because Natalia used necromancy magic in terms of combat power, not only did the caster need to be able to support the undead to fight continuously, but also the quality of the undead itself. Natalia had encountered many powerful monsters' corpses before, but she had given up because she could not carry them. 100 years ago, the demons were seen as the embodiment of cruelty and violence. After the end of the Great War between humans and demons, people of all classes on both sides suffered unspeakably. At that time, the Demon King used all his magic to eliminate most of the negative emotions in the demons' bodies. Since then, the situation of the demons in great numbers ended, and the demons established a country with the capital of Karsa. At noon, Reynolds did not rob Natalia of food as usual. Instead, he stayed in his room silently, staring at the 4 black beads in his hand in a daze. This scene made Abai, who was at the side, feel astonished. If this guy can make Reynolds not eat, well, it can't be good. After thinking about it, Abai immediately stuffed its head into the quilt on the bed, afraid that Reynolds would see it. No, I must go in person. I can't leave it alone. After muttering to himself for a while, Reynolds patted his butt and stood up immediately. With a flash of white light, he disappeared from the room. At the same time, a silver magic array lit up somewhere in the forest, and Reynolds walked out of it. I didn't notice it last time. Reynolds very clearly sensed that the black bead contained a savage aura unique to the demon race, because he was the one who had eliminated most of the negative emotions of the demon race 100 years ago. Reynolds looked around. The black bloodstains on the lawn had completely dried, leaving behind a ghastly trail. This place was actually the place where Natalia and the rabbit had encountered the giant spider not long ago. Reynolds felt that if he wanted to investigate the black bead, he should start from the very beginning. Demon Slayer Eye. Reynolds closed his eyes. Then, he abruptly opened them. A small, silver-white magic array appeared in each of his eyes, rotating continuously. Exorcism Eye was a spell that allowed the caster to clearly see the flow of magic particles in their field of vision. Just as he had expected, the image he saw through the demon expelling Eye not only contained green magic particles, but also some light blue magic particles. They were like fireflies dancing in the air. Reynolds bent down and discovered that there were black magic particles on a small patch of land. These black magic particles were not like other magic particles. The huge amount of energy contained in them made them larger than common sense. They were directly pressed to the ground and could not float. Reynolds gently touched the black magic particles, and in an instant, he felt endless stinginess. Reynolds could not help but be shocked. Not good. Reynolds seemed to have felt something. A blazing feeling came from inside his body, burning his organs. Then black smoke came out from Reynolds' skin. There was also a very strong smell of blood in the smoke. Even on the battlefield, there would not be such a terrifying smell. Ah! Renault roared angrily. Instantly, the grass within a 10-meter radius around him withered, turning into dry specimens. Every blood vessel in Reynolds' body turned purplish-black and appeared on his skin. The dense black blood vessels formed a kind of talisman that looked like a seal, as if it was imprisoning something in Reynolds' body. The unbearable pain made it difficult for Reynolds to stand. He directly knelt on the ground, and his 10 fingers dug into the soil, causing his hands to be covered in blood. The originally clear sky now seemed somewhat dim. Crows flew all over the sky, and it was filled with an ominous atmosphere. After a while, the ominous aura began to show signs of subsiding. The talisman on his body also gradually dissipated and hid under his skin. Phew! Reynolds gasped for breath. Only when his emotions had completely calmed down did he speak. That was close. I almost went berserk. Reynolds raised his wrist and wiped the sweat on his forehead. Fine. Thanks to this, I found the answer. Reynolds stood up with difficulty. White light appeared again, and he disappeared. Everything in the world was filled with magic particles of different attributes. The dark green ones were the attributes of plants, the blue ones were the attributes of the sea and river, which was the well-known water attribute. The red ones were the attributes of fire, and so on. Of course, there were also some magic composed of multiple attributes, which was called compound magic. As for the black magic particles, no one had ever discovered them. Reynolds searched along the black magic particles. He didn't move very fast. Firstly, he wanted to relieve the pain caused by the sudden change just now. Secondly, he wanted to check if there were any details that he had overlooked along the way. The closer he got to his destination, the more obvious the ominous aura became. Although the intensity was thousands of times more diluted than the aura released by Reynolds just now, it was no exaggeration to say that this was something that only the people of the demon race could do. At this point, Reynolds felt that he was not far away from the truth of Hope Village. It's just ahead. Reynolds passed through several rivers and went directly from the outermost area of the forest to the most central area. This forest was at the border area between the human race and the demon race. Although it was nominally owned by the human race, many people were still worried that the demon race would invade. Therefore, this resource-rich forest was almost never developed. The surrounding light was already very dim. For some reason, the surrounding temperature and scenery were already comparable to that of the evening. Chapter 6:26. Any random tree in the surroundings was more than 10 meters tall. Perhaps the canopy of these trees blocked the sunlight. There's actually such a place near the demon territory. Through the demon-expelling eye, Reynolds saw that there were almost endless dark magic particles and wood magic particles here. Of course, the dark magic particles here were not the same as the unknown black particles. Dark magic particles were also a branch of magic particles, which was the opposite of holy particles. It's a good place to use wood and dark magic. Of course, the premise is that there are no black particles here, Reynolds said self-deprecatingly. After a while, Reynolds seemed to feel something. He removed the flying magic on his back, tipped his toes, and landed steadily on the ground. It was extremely quiet here. There was not a single animal in sight. The darkness was like a cage of despair that trapped you inside. There was no sound at all. Only the eerie shadows of the moonlight on the ground could be seen. Reynolds saw that there seemed to be a human-shaped thing not far in front of him. With a flash of white light, Reynolds flashed in front of that thing. It was indeed a human-shaped creature. Judging from its appearance, it was hard to tell its gender. However, it retained its dark red hair and slightly bulging chest. Reynolds temporarily determined that it was a female creature. At this moment, she was leaning against the trunk of an unusually large ancient tree. Her 2-meter-long dark red hair fell on both sides of her shoulders like a waterfall. She was wearing a purple lace dress. Based on visual estimation, she was about 1.8 meters tall. Her skin was very dry, just like a mummy. The next moment, what shocked Reynolds was that there were 2 sharp horns on the female mummy's head. Although it was covered in dust, Reynolds was very sure that he knew the mummy in front of him. Female, dark red hair, sharp horns on index fingers, height 1.8 meters, human world. Reynolds put his hands on both sides of his head and shook it vigorously. No, I can't remember. Reynolds stared at the female mummy, who was probably very beautiful when she was alive. When she was alive, Reynolds seemed to have seen something through the demon-expelling eye. He suddenly became nervous. Reynolds grabbed the mummy's wrist and began to transfer magic power into her body very slowly. Come on, you can do it. Although it was just a moment, Reynolds was very sure that he did not see wrongly. The magic particles in the female mummy's nostrils were moving irregularly. This most likely meant that the woman in front of him still had a very weak chance of survival. But according to all the signs, she should have been lying here for more than 10 years. It's impossible for her to be breathing. Reynolds shook his head vigorously. Forget it. Let's save the demons first. Reynolds tried his best to control the output of his magic power to a more stable position. It was like a person who had not eaten for too long and could not eat too much meat at once. The years had made this woman's body extremely fragile. After a long period of time, the woman's breathing could be faintly seen with the naked eye. Even her skin had recovered some of its original moisture. As her appearance continued to recover, Reynolds' impression of her also changed slightly. She seems to be the one I sent to the human world to gather information. Reynolds lowered his head and thought carefully. No, I still can't remember. After a long while, the woman in front of him finally returned to her normal appearance. Her originally dark red hair had all turned crimson red. Her tall nose and crescent-shaped eyelashes were undoubtedly enough to put her on the throne of beauty. The woman seemed to have moved a little. She gently opened her eyes. Her similarly crimson pupils made her even more charming. This is, after saying that, the woman fell silent for a moment. Suddenly, for some reason, she trembled and then directly chopped at Reynolds' neck with her hand. Tongue! Reynolds blocked her hand with his palm and grabbed her right hand. Calm down. I'm the one who saved you. Perhaps because the woman had forcefully attacked, the intense pain directly woke her up from her muddle-headed state. You are? The woman asked weakly. Then she said, You're not with them. Who are they? Reynolds withdrew his fingers from the woman's wrist. Your body is basically fine now. You just need to rest quietly. Reynolds stood up trembling. Just now, in order to treat this woman's injuries, he had squatted for a long time. His legs were numb. They are. As the woman spoke, she glanced at Reynolds. With shoulder-length white hair, sapphire blue pupils, and an unparalleled appearance, her pupils instantly shrank, and she directly knelt in front of Reynolds. Your subordinate, Liliana, greets your Excellency Demon King. Reynolds was taken aback by the sudden salute. Get up quickly. Your body needs to rest. Tell me what happened, and who are you? When Liliana heard this, a faint sadness appeared on her face. Your Excellency Demon King, you don't remember me? My body hasn't been very good recently. I can't remember some things. Reynolds shook his head helplessly. Since 100 years ago, Reynolds had sealed most of the negative factors in the demon's bodies. His brain cells had been overloaded, and he gradually forgot some things. What? Your Excellency Demon King, are you all right? I'm fine. Also, don't call me Your Excellency Demon King. It's too serious. To be honest, Reynolds had never let anyone call him Your Excellency Demon King in private. He would only hear it once or twice during some major events, such as court meetings. Then, Brother Reynolds, you don't remember? You are 10 years older than me. According to the seniority of the Eternal Night clan, you are my older brother. The sudden addition of a younger sister really surprised Reynolds. The two of them did not chat much after that. Reynolds was worried that the surrounding environment was not suitable for someone like Liliana, who had just recovered. He simply brought her back to the room and talked about the rest slowly. Ever since Reynolds brought Liliana back to the dormitory last time, Reynolds had specially used a video communication crystal to communicate with Yushun, who was far away in the Demon Palace. What? You found Liliana? Yushun shouted. There really is such a younger sister. Brother, it seems that the side effects of forcefully using powerful magic are becoming more and more obvious. Liliana is our Uncle Jean's daughter. She watched you grow up when she was young. No, to a certain extent, you also watch her grow up. Chapter 6:27. Uncle, who is it? Reynolds tilted his head and pretended to be harmless. Forget it. Anyway, Uncle Jean has been missing for a long time. It's fine if you don't remember. Yushun put away his joking tone and continued with a serious expression. You have to treat Liliana well. She really worships you, the Demon King. More than a decade ago, when you sent her to the human world to scout for information about the enemy, she agreed without hesitation. Okay, I got it. Reynolds hung up the phone in a casual manner. Uncle Jean, huh? Reynolds was squatting behind the door of the room. It was not because of any reason, but because he felt awkward. An elder brother forgetting about his younger sister. Just thinking about it made him feel awkward. Reynolds leaned forward slightly and stuck his head out of the door a little. At this time, Liliana was eating at the dining table outside. Opposite her, Natalia saw a strong opponent and immediately gathered her energy to fight Liliana to the end. According to Liliana's narration, more than a decade ago, her identity as a spy was exposed and she was hunted down by the human race. She fled all the way to the vicinity of Hope Village, but a human great magus suddenly appeared and severely injured her. Then, she went into hiding. At this time, she met the dying Avina. Liliana pitied her and wanted to live, so she gave the last bit of her magic power to Avina. I wonder where Reynolds got this woman from. She can eat so much. Natalia had just returned from refining her body with magic particles. As soon as she entered the room, she saw Liliana gorging on her secret stash of food. She wanted to go up and argue, but before she could say anything, she was pulled aside by Reynolds. Reynolds spent a lot of time explaining to Natalia. Is this your younger sister? Natalia was puzzled. Do you think I'm a fool? You've done so many wicked things in your life. Do you think you deserve such a beautiful younger sister? Okay, you want to eat my food? Natalia gritted her teeth and forced herself to rush to the table to grab the food. Liliana glanced at Natalia and continued to eat. Looking at how she was wolfing down the food, she really looked like a reincarnation of a hungry ghost, although it was not much different. The reason why Liliana was lying next to the ancient tree was that she had no strength left. She had managed to escape the pursuit of a grand magus with great difficulty, but because of the exhaustion of magic and the lack of food, she had finally lost consciousness under the ancient tree. Reynolds had also asked her what was going on. Of course, she was referring to the fact that she had been hibernating in an unconscious state for more than 10 years without eating or drinking. However, Liliana couldn't explain all of this. The black magic particles were actually the reason why the demons were naturally ferocious. Every demon had a large number of black magic particles in their bodies, but they had all been sealed by Reynolds 100 years ago. What is the reason for Liliana's magic to be so powerful? Celestial Gully was the name of the black magic particles. This was the meaning behind the difficulties that the heavens had placed on the demons. Seawing Village. Natalia lived in Seawing Village, but the whole village was massacred. Avina went to Seawing Village and happened to see the massacre. Liliana's identity was exposed, and she was chased by the Grand Magus, so she fled to Seawing Village. Reynolds retracted his head and subconsciously put his hand under his chin. Wait, Reynolds seemed to have suddenly thought of something. Liliana said that the Grand Magus joined halfway. What was he going to do? The more Reynolds thought about it, the more certain he became. There must be something big behind the tragedy in Seawing Village. At this moment, the exhausted Avina walked in with a tattered book. She had been studying the magic book that Reynolds had given her in the open space for the past few days. The dark circles under her eyes and messy hair proved that Avina hadn't rested much. Smack! As soon as Avina entered, she saw the person who had saved her from danger sitting there and eating. The magic book in the book fell to the ground. Oh no! Reynolds was afraid of an accident and immediately walked out of the room. He was afraid that Liliana's identity as a demon would be exposed, so he used a small spell to cover the two sharp horns on Liliana's head. Avina, let me introduce you. This is my younger sister, Liliana. She will be staying with us for a while, so please take care of her. Liliana also saw Avina standing at the door. Of course, based on Reynolds' introduction, she realized that the girl standing at the door was the one she had saved, but it wasn't convenient for her to recognize her now. Avina knew that she had two horns on her head, which meant that Avina knew that Liliana was a demon. Hello, my name is Avina. I'm Reynolds' student. Nice to meet you. Avina revealed a very bright smile. Then I'll go take a bath first. With that, Avina returned to her room. Brother Reynolds, she didn't recognize me. Liliana had a chicken claw in her mouth and gave Reynolds a look. Idiot. You don't know Avina. She's usually very introverted. She must have recognized you since she was so enthusiastic to you just now. Reynolds also gave Liliana a look. Oh, hello. My name is Natalia. I'm also this person's student for the time being. Natalia didn't know what the two were gesturing with their eyes. Since Avina had greeted him just now, she should greet him too. What do you mean by this person? You should be more respectful to the Demon King. Reynolds. Liliana directly spat out the chicken claw in her mouth and complained. Damn it! As soon as Natalia heard Liliana's words, she was furious. Before Natalia could say anything, Reynolds directly jumped out. Don't mind her. My younger sister is like this. She has always been looking forward to me since she was young and always clings to me. Ha ha ha. Reynolds touched his head awkwardly. At the same time, Avina returned to her room and closed her door very quickly. And she kept taking deep breaths to calm herself down. Her long black hair kept moving up and down with her breathing. Phew! Avina exhaled and gently placed her slender right hand on her chest. Found it. For more than 10 years, Avina had actually been looking for the demon who had once saved her. Although the demon didn't have horns on her head, Avina was very sure that the girl who called herself Reynolds' younger sister was the demon who had once saved her. Liliana, is it? Avina softly murmured the name of her savior. Chapter 628. Avina covered her mouth in shock. That night, Eric once again went to the ancient tree where Geo had been lying. The humans wouldn't send out a Grand Magus just to deal with a demon spy. That meant that the Grand Magus had come to Shiyuing village for other reasons. I'm guessing that the massacre of the village was arranged by that human Grand Magus. The Magus profession had a very strict division of ranks, just like how chefs were divided into beginner, intermediate, and advanced. However, Magi were divided into 5 stages: Apprentice Magus, Spell Warrior, Magic Scholar, Magus Tutor, and Grand Magus. Grand Magi were, of course, the most powerful magicians among magicians. The number of Grand Magi in the entire human race could be counted with one's toes, and there were no more than 5 of them. By the way, it was worth mentioning that little brats like Tizia and the others were still at the stage of apprentice magician. As for Eric, he was a genius who claimed to be beyond the 3 realms and the 5 elements. How could a mere Grand Magus compare to him? Eric suddenly remembered the barrier outside the ruins of Xian village. It must have been set up by a Grand Magus. The Grand Magus should have brought a group of soldiers here. Although I don't know what their goal is from the way they massacred the village, they should be looking for something. Eric leaned against the big tree, organized his thoughts, and continued. They were worried that the villagers had hidden the item, so they forced the villagers to hand it over by massacring the entire village. They must be looking for something important. Eric's eyes flashed, and he clenched his fist. They're here for Tizia. That's not right. Did the human emperor find out that Tizia was the reincarnation of a saintess? That's impossible. I only found out recently. I don't know. Eric was so vexed that he rubbed his head with both hands. As a shopkeeper who didn't do anything, it wasn't Eric's personality to constantly use his brain. However, it was already pretty good that he was able to deduce the situation to this extent. Hey, what's this? Eric was about to get up and leave. He was originally leaning against a tree, but he could vaguely feel that the trunk of the ancient tree was slightly dented. Eric turned around, looked at the ancient tree, and reached out to touch it. After touching it for a while and finding nothing unusual, Eric knocked on the bark. He didn't expect a very weak echo to come from inside. There's space inside. Demon Slayer Eye. Eric used the Demon Vanquishing Eye again. Through the Demon Expelling Eye, Eric could clearly see some very rare wood magic particles and black particles seeping out of the bark. These seeped out from the bark and formed a large rectangle on the bark. Obviously, this was a hidden door. Last time, Eric hadn't discovered this hidden door because of the large amount of wood elemental magic particles in the forest and the ravine on Dove's body. How do I open it? Eric used a low-level fire spell to test the waters. C-grade fire spell, Hellfire. A blazing purple flame rose from Eric's back. It mixed with a large amount of wood elemental magic particles in the air. The wood helped the fire to ignite, and the flame expanded in an instant with a fierce whoosh. Go! The fierce purple flame rushed towards the hidden door like a lion seeing its prey. It let out a roar and hit its prey. Bang! There was a huge explosion, and the hellfire hit the hidden door vertically. This was a forest, so Eric had to extinguish the sparks in order to not cause a fire. The moss on the surface of the hidden door burned fiercely, but it didn't seem to have any obvious effect. Interesting. Eric stepped forward. Magic Emperor armor. A pitch-black magic circle circled around Eric's right arm and continued to descend until it passed through his palm. Wherever the magic circle passed, chunks of heavy armor would appear on Eric's right arm and float around him. "Close!" Eric shouted in a low voice. The right arm of the magic emperor armor was directly attached to Eric's arm. Suddenly, with Eric as the center, an extremely large amount of magic aura spread around, bringing with it a gust of air that blew through the entire forest. At this time, Eric was like a demon god standing in the center of the forest. The cool breeze blew, causing his white shawl to sway. He was like a god, a bit like a scene described in ancient myths. Eric's right hand grabbed the top of the rectangular hidden door. Although it didn't feel strange from the touch, Eric immediately pulled with all his strength. He could clearly feel a mysterious force blocking him. "Open!" The right arm of the magic emperor armor emitted a dark light. Eric's arm swelled a lot in an instant, and he directly tore off the entire rectangular piece of bark. Boom! With the removal of the hidden door, a tunnel about 3 meters high was revealed. Then, an extremely large amount of magic came from inside. This magic could even be said to be one of the few magic that Eric had seen in his life. Interesting. Eric disarmed the magic emperor armor on his right hand. He first stuck his head into the tunnel to take a look. He found that it was pitch black inside, and he couldn't even see his own fingers in front of him. Although the lighting in the center of the forest wasn't very good, causing the surroundings to be a mess, and the growth of plants was very uneven. Not far from the tunnel, there were spiral stone steps that led to the underground. The stone steps were very old and covered in moss. If one accidentally stepped on them and fell down, they would be more suitable to be described as meat paste in the future. Moss light. Eric used a small intermediate light spell. Moss light allowed the caster's body to emit a blue light that could be controlled for a period of time. Eric walked to the stone steps unhurriedly. There was a thick, damp smell around him. It should be caused by the water that seeped down from the ancient trees that didn't evaporate. Eric looked at the bottomless spiral stone steps in front of him and jumped down without thinking. The speed of the fall was very fast, and the whistling of the cold wind was a little chilly. After a while, Eric saw the ground paved with bluestone. Ouch! Eric wanted to land in a handsome posture, but he didn't know what he stepped on and fell down. Chapter 6:29. A secluded place with no one around was the best place to practice Chinibyu. This was what Eric had learned in his 200 years of life. Eric looked down at the bottom of his foot and realized that he had tripped over a large and slippery piece of moss. What's this? Just as Eric was about to stomp on the moss, he suddenly realized that there was something under it. Eric took out a handkerchief from the black disc and put it on his hand. He touched the moss with his index finger and realized that there were black bloodstains under it. It looks like this bloodstain was left here quite a while ago. Eric looked up and scanned his surroundings. He realized that there was a lot of moss around, and there was one every 3 feet. The moss is arranged in a straight line. There should be someone up ahead. Eric stood up and put the handkerchief back into the black disc. He continued forward. The bloodstains made him stop fooling around. Eric followed the moss and stopped after a short while. Hiss, hiss. A strange sound came from around him. Moss light. Eric adjusted the brightness of the moss light to the highest. Suddenly, he realized that he was surrounded by hundreds of large spiders. Each spider was bigger and stronger than the previous 4. They also emitted a strong aura of sky ravine. Eric was all too familiar with this aura. Hiss. One of the spiders spat out a ball of silk at Eric, but Eric easily dodged it by jumping back. Whoosh! To Eric's surprise, a 2-meter-wide vine suddenly emerged from the ground and rushed directly at the spider. The spider wanted to run, but it was still bound by the vine and strangled to death on the spider web. Is there something suppressing these spiders? Seeing that the spider that had attacked earlier had died, the other spiders all moved in different sizes. In the end, they retreated along the web, leaving a path for Eric to pass through. Eric vaguely sensed the seriousness of the situation and hurried forward. A moment later, a light blue light appeared in front of him. Eric immediately teleported to that place. There was an incomparably huge stone door. The smooth gray surface made Eric wonder how this stone door was made. In the middle of the intersection between the two stone doors, there were densely packed grooves that were 3 fingers wide. These grooves were intertwined to form a circular shape. There were some words engraved on the side that even Eric couldn't understand. The grooves were emitting a faint blue light. The light blue light that Eric saw just now was emitted by these grooves. Eric unconsciously made a set of classic movements when he was thinking. His left thumb and middle finger were on both sides of his lower lip, and his index finger was on his middle finger. This is an ancient magic array. Eric finally understood why the designer of this place had set the option of a hidden door. Ancient magic arrays were used by ancient people a long, long time ago. After a long time, most of them have been lost. In terms of value and power, an ancient magic array was comparable to an SSS-level spell. Eric roughly analyzed the ancient magic array in front of him. Although he couldn't understand the specific content, he could roughly guess that it was a sealing spell and an absolute sealing spell. The so-called absolute sealing magic was actually a magic that had a strong sealing effect and no way to break it. It was the same principle as having a lock, but not having a key. Since the spellcaster didn't want anyone to open it, it meant that there was something very important hidden inside. Okay, let me break it. To be honest, Eric didn't want to break the ancient magic array by force. Since the spellcaster didn't want anyone to find it, he must have his reasons. However, the thing inside the stone door was related to the top secret of the demons, the heavenly ravine. Eric had to break it. It was actually very simple to break the absolute sealing spell. He just had to use a more powerful offensive spell to break it. Even Eric couldn't cast an SSS rank spell instantaneously. Just as Eric was about to recite the spell, something he hadn't noticed before attracted his attention. What is this? In a small space beside the stone door, there was a blue vine growing out of the blood-soaked soil. Eric walked over to take a look and found that there were 2 people in the middle of the blue vine. Were they also attacked by the vine? Eric took a closer look and found that there was a man and a woman inside the vines. The man looked to be about 40 years old. He was a middle-aged tree with short black hair. His body was like a beast, and there were dried bloodstains on both sides of his face. Although the vines only exposed their heads, Eric could still vaguely imagine the bulging muscles of the man. The woman had long black hair and tender skin. She was a beauty. She looked like a young lady in her 20s. They must be husband and wife. Eric exclaimed, "Look at how happy they are. They must be very happy." Eric turned around and was about to step forward to continue casting spells when all of a sudden, wait, Natalia looks like them. Eric hurriedly looked at the 2 people inside the vine. Natalia said that her father went back to Sheehan village to save his wife. What if they came here with serious injuries? Eric continued, "The blue vine can heal wounds. Such a big vine should be able to save their lives." Although Eric wasn't sure whether they were Natalia's parents, he still checked their bodies just in case. Demon removal eye. Both of them had fatal wounds on their bodies. Through the demon removal eye, Eric could see the flow of magic in their bodies through the vine. It's a bit troublesome. Their souls and bodies have already been separated. The vines have protected their bodies, but their souls. Eric searched everywhere in the tunnel, but still couldn't find their souls. According to the time, their souls should have dissipated 12 years ago. Chapter 630. Eric's conclusion had basically announced the death of these 2 people. If a person's soul had dissipated, then no matter what, it would be impossible to save them. Looking at the 2 people's loving faces, Eric felt very uncomfortable. Their only regret was that they did not know how Natalia was doing. Eric looked at them in silence for a long time, and finally nodded as if he had made up his mind about something. "All right. Hey, idiot, where did you go this time? I have been looking for you for a long time." After returning from the forest, it was already midnight. Reynolds sneaked into the house on tiptoe. Originally, he did not know how to face Natalia, but as soon as he entered the house, he was caught red-handed by Tizia. "Huh, I just went out for a walk, and the weather outside is really good." "Oh, is that so? Let me see. Tizia stuck her head out of the door, but with her golden hair, she looked like a newborn chick that had just broken out of its shell and was looking at the world. The moon is dark outside, the wind is strong, and the stars are twinkling. There's a unique fragrance in the air, and the sound of insects is lingering in my ears. It is as if they are telling a legendary story. And wait, Tizia, just tell me what you want me to do. I can't stand you like this. Reynolds had a very deep understanding of Tizia's every word and action. The legendary saying that one would not visit a temple without a reason was referring to this kind of person. I was discovered. Tizia stuck out her little tongue and knocked on the right side of her head with her little fist, making a cute action. The effect was not bad. At least, it was more reliable than Reynolds's cute action. Speaking of Reynolds's cute action, it was really on the same level as singing and falling to death while running. Let's talk about this in the future. Actually, didn't you teach me how to use magic particles to train my body before? She even used you. It must be something bad. Yes, Reynolds echoed. This afternoon, after I finished my lunch, I ran into the forest to train. Then I suddenly felt a very large amount of wood element magic, so I tried to absorb it, and in the end, it was really absorbed into my body. I just want to ask you to fight with me for a while to practice. Wood element energy? It should have been emitted when the barrier around the hidden door was broken. Reynolds thought about it for a moment and agreed to it. Indeed, it's not enough to just bury yourself in training. You have to improve yourself through actual combat. How about this? Go and call Natalia out and let her try it too. All right. Tizia happily went back to the house to look for Natalia. After a while, Tizia returned with a group of people. Hey, Avina, what are you doing here? Hurry back to the cage and finish your remaining 100 laps. I heard that I can come over to watch the show. After you guys are done, I'll go back and continue running. As she spoke, Avina's eyes turned into the shape of a carrot. She took out a carrot from somewhere and started nibbling on it. What about you, Gio? Reynolds looked at Gio, who was following closely behind Tizia. I'm here to admire Brother Reynolds's heroic bearing. Be careful that I don't beat your Brother Reynolds to tears. Tizia raised her clenched fist and pointed at Gio with her nose. Before Gio could refute, Reynolds quickly pulled Tizia over and started the duel. The location of the duel was a patch of grass not far away from the house. The grass under their feet was very lush, and some of the weeds even exceeded their knees. The environment at night was indeed similar to what Tizia had said. The stars in the sky were fighting to be praised by the people on the ground. There was a light wind. It wasn't very strong, but it was enough to make their hair sway. Tizia took the initiative to start the duel. She held her breath and started chanting the incantation slowly. Fluttering silver feathers, entrusted with the thoughts of the heart. There will always be people who seek the other side of the dream. Spread your wings, wings of heaven. After she finished chanting her incantation, a silver magic array appeared behind Tizia's back and began to spin. Shortly after, the magic array shattered, and a pair of pure white wings appeared on both sides of Tizia's back. When the wings flapped, white feathers filled the air, looking like snowflakes drifting through the air, beautiful and elegant. I'm coming, Tizia shouted out loudly. Holding onto the thin sword that she brought with her, she rushed towards Reynolds. Every inch of the place that she passed by, she left behind feathers falling down. It was as if she was an angel that had descended to the mortal world. Whoosh! Tizia's sword pierced straight towards Reynolds' abdomen. Although the sword's speed was fast, Reynolds still managed to dodge it easily. It's not over yet. When Tizia saw that her attack had missed, she instantly reversed her grip on her sword in midair. She then turned around and charged at Reynolds once more. This time, Reynolds didn't seem to have any intention of dodging the attack. He directly used his right palm that was strengthened by magic and forcefully grabbed onto Tizia's thin sword. What? You actually managed to grab onto my sword. Tizia wanted to pull her sword out of Reynolds' hand. However, after trying for a long time, she realized that there was no effect at all. You have improved compared to last time. However, there's a problem with your battle strategy. Furthermore, your sword is not good enough. Next time, I'll get you a better sword. After saying that, Reynolds used his strength and broke Tizia's thin sword in half. Tizia had saved up a lot of money to buy this sword. It had been a few years since she bought it. Although she had always wanted to replace it, she was reluctant to do so. Due to the broken sword, Tizia was sent flying backwards. However, before she could react, Reynolds used space jump to appear in front of her. Huh! Reynolds punched Tizia's stomach with a straight hook. Of course, he knew how to control his strength. He wouldn't endanger Tizia's life. The pain that she had never experienced before made Tizia's mind a little fuzzy. This was the first time in her life that she had received such a heavy attack. Although she had received some injuries during the PvP matches in the academy, they paled in comparison to this. Tizia knelt on the ground with her left knee, her hands hugging her lower abdomen. Her expression was somewhat uncontrollable. The broken sword was stuck vertically into the ground. This also made Tizia realize just how powerful Reynolds was. All right, you lost. I can still fight. Tizia stood up, trembling. Although the weapon in her hand was broken, it didn't hinder her from fighting. All right, you can only continue to fight if you have a good rest. I will compensate you with a new sword in a few days. After saying that, Reynolds turned to Avina and shouted, Avina, hurry up and help Tizia back to her room to rest. Chapter 631. Without hesitation, Avina enlarged herself and carried Natalia on her back as fast as she could. How could Reynolds be so ruthless? Avina couldn't help but complain even though she knew that Reynolds was doing this for Natalia's sake. Reynolds didn't feel good when he saw the unconscious Natalia on Avina's back. It was the same as the saying, when I hit you, I feel the pain in my heart. Reynolds only felt relieved when he saw Avina send Natalia back to her room. Natalia, it's your turn. Okay. Natalia's expression was very solemn. She knew that Reynolds was very powerful, but she hadn't seen it with her own eyes. She finally saw how powerful Reynolds was after the battle between him and Natalia. What should I do? Should I summon a puppet or attack with magic? Natalia bit her lower lip lightly and cast her most commonly used magic. Whispers of the fallen angel, for the sake of the world, I am willing to use my broken arm to punish the foreign species. Demonic arm. Following Natalia's incantation, a purple magic circle quickly unfolded under Reynolds' feet. The magic circle slowly rotated counterclockwise. Finally, after the last word of the incantation, a huge black right arm stretched out from the magic circle with a boom, kicking up a cloud of dust. Oh, this isn't bad. Reynolds gave a good evaluation of the magic's power and range. Demonic arm was a type of magic that belonged to the dark attribute. Not only was it powerful, but it was also very rare. Everyone had different adaptations to different attributes of magic. Take Natalia, for example. Her magic adaptability level was A, which meant that she could absorb and sense the existence of magic particles better than others. At the same time, everyone's magic attribute was different. It was just that when a caster cast a spell of a corresponding attribute, the power would increase by a lot. It didn't mean that they couldn't use spells of other attributes. But I'm afraid this isn't enough for me. The Sky Demon arm charged straight at Reynolds, trying to grab him, but Reynolds was like a fluttering cotton ball. It couldn't grab him no matter how hard it tried. Reynolds had been using magic particles to temper his body since he was a child, just like Natalia, except that he loved her more strictly. Of course, I know that this is not enough to trap you, teacher. After saying that, Natalia stretched out her right hand in front of her, her palm facing Reynolds. But when you were distracted, I had already finished chanting another spell. Then, Natalia put her left hand under her right hand, trying to control the output of magic power in this way. Undead summon, Natalia shouted. Immediately after, a purplish-black magic array appeared between the two of them and spread out in all directions. The magic array spread very quickly, and in just a moment, it covered the surrounding space. Teacher, you must be careful. This is my most powerful spell. Reynolds nodded in relief. Not bad, but you don't have much magic left in your body. Such a large-scale spell must consume a lot of magic power. Indeed, this spell can summon the corpses of all dead animals within a certain period of time. Along with Natalia's voice, Reynolds heard many small sounds beginning to surround him. Countless little insects, birds, beasts, demons, and human corpses crawled out from the ground. Teacher, this is the grassland, the world of beasts. Reynolds could see many weak magic surges without the demon-expelling eye. Although the individual strength of these puppets was as weak as dregs, the human wave tactic was always useful. Go! Thousands of insects began to move under Natalia's command. They were hidden in the lush grassland, and ordinary people couldn't see them at all. So many human and demon corpses. Is it because this place was once a battlefield? Although they were said to be humans and demons, their bodies had already rotted away. Now, only their creaking skeletons were left. If it weren't for the two horns on some of the skeletons' heads, it was really possible to mistake them for humans. Reynolds looked at the densely packed zombie puppets walking towards him without a trace of panic on his face. Lord Demon King's strength is the strongest. There's no other. Avina said quietly from the side. Natalia was actually very confident in her move. Although she didn't expect to rely on it to defeat Reynolds, it was good to make him feel some pressure. But in the next moment, Natalia felt that her thoughts were deeply childish. From afar, she saw Reynolds standing on the spot and snap his fingers. Suddenly, a purple-red flame spread out with Reynolds as the center, directly burning all the puppets to ashes. To be able to burn a skeleton to ashes in an instant, one could imagine how high the temperature of the flame was. Natalia looked around and found that the grassland around them was the same as before. Apart from some small damage caused by the demonic arm, the flame completely avoided the grass and didn't cause any harm to them. Natalia laughed bitterly. Teacher, I've lost. I've never seen such amazing control before. You actually destroyed my puppets without causing any damage to the flowers and plants. I accept my loss wholeheartedly. Reynolds spread out his hands. If you study hard, you can reach the same level. You did well just now, using one spell to buy time for another spell to be cast. Reynolds was actually very satisfied with Natalia's attack. Where's Katerina? Call her out too. Reynolds said casually. Teacher, have you forgotten? Katerina has already returned home. All right, look at my memory. Reynolds patted Natalia's head. Keep it up. Okay. Natalia blushed. Only my parents have patted my head since I was young. Parents, Reynolds could also see Natalia's thoughts. I'd better not tell him. As for Natalia's parents, Reynolds had already made up his mind. Even if the method to find their souls could only be done with great magic, even if he had to pay the price with his life, he would still revive them. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. When Reynolds returned to his room, he saw Avina sitting on his bed. It seemed that she had already helped Natalia settle down. How is it? Not good, Avina said in her exclusive, lowly voice. Avina seemed to be a little angry with Reynolds. Even her eyes became slightly burning flames. Chapter 632. Okay. She has a lot of wood magic in her body now. She'll recover in a few days. Reynolds seemed to have thought of something. Hey, were you trying to use Natalia's matter to avoid running? Most of the water in the forest had been thrown to other areas by Reynolds, perhaps because of the change in the atmosphere a few days ago. The sunlight was very comfortable. Every strand of golden light shone into the room through the thin special window. Everywhere was warm, and the people in the room were full of comfort. Natalia opened her tightly closed eyes, but the comfortable feeling brought by the sunlight was immediately interrupted by the pain in her abdomen. Reynolds, that bastard, he hurt me so much. Natalia threw a tantrum that was unique to her. That idiot is really powerful. Maybe with him, I can find the truth about Hope Village. At this moment, Natalia heard a knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. It's me, Reynolds. A familiar voice came from outside the door. That's strange. Why is he here? Natalia hesitated for a moment. Could it be that she didn't hit me hard enough yesterday? So, she's here to finish me off? At this thought, Natalia was speechless. She forgot to change into her pajamas and ran to open the door. Coming. Natalia opened the door. Wait, did I open the door the wrong way? I think I saw something strange. Just as Reynolds was about to enter, Natalia suddenly closed the door with lightning speed. She had just seen Reynolds standing outside in a maid's outfit, with long white rabbit ears on his head. The black and white outfit matched his petite figure very well, and the black lace stockings on his legs made him look so charming. My nose! What the hell? After closing the door, Natalia looked outside through the peephole. Reynolds was holding a medium-sized iron plate in his hand, and there were some exquisite dishes on the plate. There were salads, meat dishes, and the almighty artifact, hot water, etc. So cute. For a moment, Natalia forgot that Reynolds had punched her. Knock, knock, knock. There were 3 more knocks on the door. Natalia, it's me. Why did you close the door again? I hit my nose. Why? Why are you dressed like this? Reynolds's short white hair was a highlight, and it was a clear contrast with most of the black clothes. His long and curved eyelashes and his crystal blue pupils exuded a touch of innocence. This time, Reynolds even put on the black stockings given by Ivina, which made Natalia blush like a monkey's butt. Steam seemed to be rising from Natalia's head. What should I do? He's so cute, I want to hug him. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, Reynolds... Ivina, just you wait. In fact, ever since Reynolds punched Natalia last night, he had been feeling uneasy. Although he had controlled his strength, he still felt sorry for Natalia. Therefore, Ivina stepped forward and gave Reynolds a very loyal suggestion. Reynolds, why don't you put on a maid's outfit and apologize to her? While you're at it, prepare some of Natalia's favorite food, and it'll be settled. Hey, you just want to see me in a maid's outfit, and I even have a maid's outfit. Before Reynolds could finish, Ivina took out a maid's outfit from the wardrobe and placed it in front of Reynolds. What do you want to say? Nothing. Hey, you've only been awake for a few days. Where did you get these things? I've long expected this day to come, so I've prepared in advance. Back to the present. Why are you dressed like this? Of course I'm here to apologize to you. I hit you a little too hard last night. Let me in. It's embarrassing to be outside. Don't let Lilith see you again. Okay. Natalia opened the door, and then Reynolds ran in like a fish seeing water. Sob good. Ivina and Lilith didn't see me. At this moment. Lilith, did you get everything? Yes. Everything is done. The 360-degree one without any blind spots. Okay. Quickly make a few hundred copies and save them. Look, I made these myself. The salad I just pulled from the ground, the meat skewers made from the spider carcasses, and the water I boiled with fire. Try it. Although Natalia didn't know how to remove magic, she could clearly see that there was a steady stream of black bubbles coming out of the food. Hey, isn't it just boiling water? How did you make it into something so deadly? You're not here to apologize at all. You're killing people to silence them. Why aren't you eating? Is it not good? Reynolds asked with concern when he saw that Natalia didn't eat immediately after seeing the food. I'm not that hungry yet. It's okay, I'll eat later. Oh no, I was beaten silly last night. Oh, okay. I'll put it here first. Especially the hot water. Remember to drink it while it's hot. Reynolds put the iron plate on the table. All right, look. Reynolds put his hand into the black plate and took out a sword that glowed faintly. The body of the sword was silver white, and there were some indecipherable runes engraved on it. There were 2 golden patterns on both sides of the sword that went all the way to the blade. The hilt was also golden, as if it was a derivative of the patterns. It looked very grand. Here for you. Reynolds handed the sword to Natalia. Wow! Natalia hurriedly took the sword. The shape, the aura, the sharpness, Natalia stroked the sword back and forth, unable to hide the smile on her face. It seems that Natalia likes it a lot. This sword is called the 6 Wings. It's very powerful. Take some time to study it yourself. Okay. Natalia waved the hexapod wings in the room. Every time she waved the sword, there would be an ear-piercing sound of air being torn apart. Natalia tried to inject some mana into the sword. Suddenly, the hexapod wings turned from silver to dark green, exuding a dense vitality of with magic particles. Wow! Chapter 633. Since you like it so much, I'll forget about the punch I gave you last night. Okay, Natalia replied casually. Obviously, her mind was not here at the moment. Then I'll take my leave first. Go. Remember to finish your meal. I know. Reynolds was actually very happy to see that Natalia liked the sword he gave her so much. However, he did feel a little sad that she ignored him. Reynolds thought to himself as he returned to his room. Just now, the 6 wings turned green, which means that the wood element magic particles in Tizia's body should be very important. The wood element magic particles have the effect of recovery. She's indeed a saint, Reynolds complained. He changed into the rabbit pajamas and threw himself on the bed. His movements were smooth, and he could not be more skilled. I wonder how Avina is doing now. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Now, Avina's carriage had already driven for a long distance. The carriage had just driven through a very bumpy dirt road, and Avina's bones were about to fall apart. In order to save time, Reynolds spent a lot of effort to find the nearest path to their destination. After all, the carriage he hired was charged according to the distance. I wonder how Tizia is doing now. Avina put her right hand on the window of the carriage, and then clenched her fist and gently pressed it against the right side of her face. They were now in a small mountain area. The scenery outside the window was still very beautiful. There were birds, flowers, apes, and a quiet forest. Of course, it would be better if the left side of the road was not a cliff. The fresh breeze made Avina's mood much more relaxed. Previously, she had been cooped up in her room studying creation research, and she did not have much time to rest. Now, she could take advantage of this time to relax. She did not know why, but recently, whenever she closed her eyes, the image of Reynolds would appear in her mind. There were images of him carefully teaching her knowledge, and also images of him using high-intensity magic to snatch food from Tizia. In short, she had been thinking about him. At this moment, the blue crystal hanging on Avina's neck vibrated slightly and glowed. The crystal was the size of a palm and was actually very heavy. However, Avina treated it as a family heirloom and rubbed it all day long. Now, Reynolds sent her a message. Avina's face lit up. She immediately took off the crystal and placed it on a small table in front of her. The crystal shook for a short while, and then a dazzling light shot toward the ceiling. A small figure of Reynolds was projected in front of Avina. Ahem. AI Wayna cleared her throat and revealed a very bright smile. Teacher, what's wrong? What? Can't I contact you? Reynolds purposely pretended to be angry and puffed up his cheeks. Puffed. AI Wayna couldn't hold back her laughter for a moment and directly spat it out. Teacher, what's that on the bed behind you? Oh, what's that? Reynolds turned around and realized that the maid outfit he had just changed out of was still on his bed. He had forgotten to return it to Gio. No, nothing. Ha. As he spoke, Reynolds hurriedly kept it. I don't know why you keep putting strange things in my room recently. Good things don't happen to me. Bad things always happen to me. Flipped over on the bed and continued to sleep. That's strange. Why are there other people's magic waves nearby? Teacher, what do you mean? Reynolds's expression changed. You might have encountered magic bandits. Magic bandits, as the name suggested, were different from ordinary bandits. They usually had a strict system, and every member of them had come into contact with magic at some point or another. They're coming. As soon as Reynolds finished speaking, a fireball flew towards the carriage from the top of the mountain. The fireball was not very accurate and did not hit the carriage. At the top of the mountain, a few bandits wearing men's underwear over their heads appeared. There were only 3 of them. The one standing in the middle was a relatively strong man. His height was closer to the standard of a normal person. He should be the leader of the 3. The one standing on the left was a short and fat man. At first glance, he looked like the type that was often bullied. The one on the right was a tall and thin man, like a bean sprout. Oh, the classic trio of clowns has qualified. Reynolds ridiculed through the crystal. Obviously, in Reynolds's heart, these 3 people had already drifted away from the words magic bandits. The three of them jumped down from the top of the mountain. Perfect. Oh, Aya. The three of them had different reactions. The one in the middle landed perfectly. The tall one seemed to have sprained his ankle. As for the fat one, he had a perfect diving posture. Lie. The man in the lead shouted, "If you want to pass through here, stay, leave your toll." The fat one said, "My brother is right." AI Wayna couldn't help but feel speechless when she saw how silly the three of them were. If Teacher Reynolds were to do this, it would be hilarious. That was what Tizia thought. Avina, although the three of them know a little magic, their proficiency level is not high. You can use them to practice and prepare for the sacred sword dance. Avina seemed to understand what Reynolds was referring to. Okay, AI Wayna simply scanned the three of them. Although their faces were covered and she couldn't get any useful information, she could roughly tell the positions each of them was good at just by looking at their body shapes. The coachman was also a little nervous at this moment. He was already prepared to escape at any time. Ivana got down from the carriage and said a few simple words to calm the coachman down. She asked him to wait for a while and even stuffed a small silver coin into his hand. The coachman's eyes immediately shone like a dog seeing a bone. Ivana walked to the front of the three masked bandits not far away. "Come, I am 3000 Ivana from Rhymingsham Magic Academy. Nice to meet you. Brother, look at this chick. She is quite pretty. She must be very rich." "That's right. Brother, let me deal with this little girl. I alone am enough." The tall and thin man stepped forward and stood in front of the three of them. Chapter 634. Reynolds found a large pile of popcorn and hugged it in front of his chest. He sat cross-legged on the bed in the room, watching Avina's duel through the crystal. As for Avina, Reynolds was still very confident. The skinny man pulled out 2 short daggers from the scabbard behind his buttocks. Then, for some unknown reason, he muttered a long string of incantations, and the 2 short daggers gradually shone with a purple light. "I'm coming." The thin man crouched down and rushed toward Avina with 2 knives in his hands. In order to confuse Avina's vision, the skinny man kept changing his route left and right, but he still found that Avina was staring at him. Just as the skinny man was about to attack, Avina delivered a roundhouse kick to his waist, sending him flying back to the other 2 men. "Big brother, this is a bit strong." The other 2 were shocked. The one who was called Big Brother stood up and said, No, don't be afraid. One by one, go." The 3 of them stepped forward at the same time. The fat one was holding a meteor hammer that was about the size of his pig head. It was covered with thorns. The big brother was holding a withered yellow staff that looked like a rotten branch. The skinny one was still holding 2 knives. "Go!" The 3 of them attacked at the same time. The first one to attack was the fatty. He placed the meteor hammer 3 centimeters above his head and spun it rapidly. The meteor hammer was like a huge windmill, creating a huge gust of wind. The sand in the air made it hard for Avina to open her eyes. Suddenly, the fatty threw the spiked meteor hammer toward Avina. "You can't hit him." Avina tiptoed and took a step to the left, easily dodging the attack. "Humph, I was waiting for you." Avina felt a burst of cold sweat on her back. She turned around and found that the skinny man was waiting for her not far away. "Stab!" The skinny man retracted his hands and suddenly thrust them out. The purple knife slashed across Avina's waist, leaving a small scar on her skin. Avina was wearing clothes that were more suitable for sports. The dark blue jacket was one of Avina's favorite clothes. At this moment, the scar on Avina's body suddenly seemed out of place. Avina lifted her right leg and then delivered a roundhouse kick to the skinny man to the side. At this moment, a fireball that was exactly the same as the previous one rushed over. "I can't block it." Avina crossed her arms with the back of her hands facing outwards, trying to use her body to forcefully block this attack. Shrink! Suddenly, a blue magic array appeared on the incoming fireball. Instantly, the power of the flames was reduced by more than half. Boom! The fireball exploded, sending up a cloud of dust. "Ha ha, this is..." The fat man shouted. "Oh, the fireballs is that." Suddenly, a stream of water spurted out from the dust. The water gathered into a whip in the air and slapped the faces of the three brothers. Who did it? It's that girl, big brother. The fat man pointed in Avina's direction and said. The dust gradually dispersed. Avina's figure stood there once again. The sleeves on Avina's forearm had disappeared. There were some faint burn marks on her skin. Reynolds couldn't help but feel pain in his heart. In the world of water, I am the king. With a wave of my hand, I create a current. In the blink of an eye, I create a whirlpool. Reflecting the 7 stars in the sky, I create a mysterious line to guide the way. Big Dipper flow. After the incantation, the water whip in Avina's hand turned into a puddle of water again and dripped onto the ground. Then, the water seemed to be full of vitality and instantly soaked the ground under the feet of the three brothers. Big brother, what is this? Big brother, I'm a little panicked. No, don't be afraid. I'm here. Countless water droplets floated from the soil into the air and floated around the three brothers. Big brother, the fat man freed one of his arms from the 2 arms that were hugging his big brother and pointed to the ground. No, don't be afraid. She is just bluffing. Although they said so, the 3 silly brothers had already hugged each other submissively. A huge crystal blue magic array spread out from under their feet. It enveloped Avina and the 3 brothers at a very fast speed. Then, 7 square blocks of different sizes appeared in the center of the magic array. They were arranged in the shape of the Big Dipper. Then, with a flash of light, the square blocks were connected with each other using water currents. Then, 7 super high-pressure water currents shot into the sky. Girl, no, big sister, I'm wrong. Sorry. Hurry up and retract your divine ability. The 3 brothers knelt on the ground. Large amounts of tears spurted out from their eyes. It's not easy for us. We have an 80-year-old mother and 2 dogs to take care of. Avina's magic used the gravitational force of the Big Dipper to drive the flow of water. High-pressure water currents could easily cut diamonds, let alone these 7 more powerful water currents. Avina was actually just pretending to release a simple magic on the surface. In fact, she did not have enough magic power to cast such a high-level magic. Seeing that this magic had completely stunned the 3 brothers, Avina also retracted her magic power and let the magic disappear. The water currents that were shot out suddenly lost the traction of magic power and fell vertically under the influence of gravity. The 3 brothers were instantly drenched. The man in the lead climbed up in a sorry state. Let's go. Big brother, you're not stuttering anymore. How is that possible? My stuttering is the after effect of my illness when I was young. The big brother seemed to have realized something. I really don't stutter anymore. Avina, it seems that your water currents have smashed his brain. Miss, thank you for your help. He will never forget such a great kindness in my life. Let's go. Seeing the 3 brothers leave happily, Avina felt a little relieved. After all, this was her first battle with outsiders. Reynolds slapped his head. He could not think of any idiom to describe the 3 of them. At this moment, accompanied by a series of cracking sounds, a crack suddenly appeared under Avina's feet. What's that sound? Avina, be careful. Before Avina could react, the ground under her feet suddenly collapsed, and she flew toward the cliff behind her. Chapter 635. Avina's mind went blank. She didn't understand what was going on. Wait, I haven't. Just as they were about to fly off the road, the crystal on the carriage suddenly emitted an extremely dazzling light. Avina saw a black disc appear in front of her. Renaud flew out from it, grabbed her arm, and pulled Avina back. In that instant, time seemed to have stopped in front of AI Wena's eyes. The position that Reynolds was grabbing was where her arm was burned by the fireball. Although waves of stinging pain constantly stimulated her, this indescribable feeling made her feel so blissful. Avina looked straight into Reynolds' eyes, as if they were a bottomless ocean. She always felt that she was going to be immersed in it. Reynolds turned around and pulled with all his might. The 2 of them returned to the side of the carriage. Teacher, Avina said with embarrassment. Idiot, Reynolds knocked Avina's head lightly. Luckily, I was able to use this crystal to teleport here in time. Otherwise, you would have fallen down. Teacher, Avina was a little touched. Other than her parents, perhaps only this person in front of her would be willing to teleport here for her. AI Wayna hugged Renault's waist tightly with a puff sound. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Reynolds patted Avina's head and comforted her. After a while, the two returned to the carriage. The collapse just now had caused the carriage to be in a state where it couldn't move forward. Reynolds specially used another magic to restore the carriage to its original state before the collapse. Are you okay? I'm fine, I'm fine. Avina, were you taken by the robber just now? Why are you stuttering now? Reynolds joked. No, no. Haha, you're still denying it. Teacher, you always bully me. Reynolds suddenly remembered that Avina's hand was burned. He squatted beside Avina's knees and gently pulled up the new clothes that Avina had just changed into. Of course, the so-called change of clothes was just a change of clothes. This place wasn't suitable for a girl to change clothes. Seeing Reynolds's actions, Avina's adrenaline was rapidly secreted. Her delicate little face suddenly turned red. She looked like she wanted to say something, but didn't dare to. It was really cute. Reynolds gently grabbed the upper part of Avina's wrist. Although Avina had already treated the wound simply, it was only limited to a thin layer of gauze on the outside. Hiss! Avina gasped. In fact, Reynolds' action of tearing the gauze was already very careful, but it still inevitably caused some pain. Some of the gauze is already stuck to the flesh. Reynolds muttered softly, Avina, your injury is more serious than I thought. Although I'm not very good at healing magic, don't worry, I have other methods. When Reynolds had asked Avina to challenge the three robber brothers, he had already thought of a plan in case she got hurt. It wouldn't be good to go home with a body full of injuries. There are two twin stars in the sky, one heart and one mind. No distinction between one and the other. Shift. A small white magic formation appeared above Avina's wound. This magic formation was slightly different from the usual ones. The runes at the edge of the magic formation were obviously a few times more than other magic formations. It could even be said that they were densely packed, and it was difficult to see any of the runes with the naked eye. It's so comfortable. AI Wayna felt that her wound was healing at a moderate speed, accompanied by a faint cooling sensation. It was as if an indescribable soft object was caressing her. After a while, Avina's wound had completely healed, and white, tender skin once again appeared on her arm. Little girl, be careful next time. You're lucky I was there this time, or the consequences would be unimaginable. Teacher, why did the magic just now seem different? Oh, that's a special magic. Special magic. Isn't that something only very powerful people can do? Teacher, you're so powerful. Avina subconsciously hugged Reynolds' arm. Teacher, what's wrong? AI Wayna followed Reynolds' line of sight and realized that her well-developed chest was sandwiching the teacher's arm in the middle. Teacher, I didn't do it on purpose. Avina's face instantly flushed even redder than before, and she suddenly felt a little embarrassed. My child is developing really well these days. If there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Reynolds stood up, and a black disc that was just taller than his body appeared in the carriage. Just as Reynolds took a step into it, Avina's voice suddenly sounded from behind. Teacher, you must look really good in a maid costume. Poochie. Reynolds staggered and fell into the black disc. Teacher, you can do it. Avina looked out of the window with happiness written all over her face. The scenery is so beautiful. Oh, Erlang, I want to buy a lot of food today, including white, red, and green. Speaking of green, I think of an unbearable past. Why is the hat green? It's because of love. In the depths of the forest, a short figure was happily jumping forward, humming an indecent folk song from his hometown. This place was near the ancient tree where Reynolds had found Natalia lying. The figure was still moving closer and closer. Judging from the song, the voice sounded a little young, and his off-key ability to kill people was probably comparable to Reynolds's. The surrounding fog dispersed, and the figure actually looked a little familiar. It was actually the chubby boy that Reynolds had met in Wildflower Village. There was a vegetable basket hanging from the chubby boy's right wrist, which was filled with white, red, and green vegetables. Of course, most of the vegetables were green. He was also wearing a pointed green hat with a product label on it. Reynolds had no idea where he got it from. The chubby boy walked and jumped to the side of the ancient tree. Huh, that's strange. Where did my toy go? The chubby boy seemed to be looking for something. Suddenly, his nose twitched as if he had smelled something special. Oh, it's little Reynolds. It seems that he came earlier than I expected. Forget it. I'll give my toy to him. Chapter 636. Little Fatty came to the hidden door. Before Reynolds left, he had cast a more advanced spell on the hidden door to prevent others from discovering it. But little Fatty passed through it like a ghost. Seeing that someone had come here, the large spiders in the tunnel began to move again. They surrounded little Fatty in the middle, ready to attack at any time. Do you want to play games with me? Little Fatty smiled innocently. Then, the spiders stopped moving as if they were dead. A gust of wind blew past, and their bodies fell to the ground, splitting into pieces of minced meat. Even the black bead turned into powder. You guys really can't take it. Let's go. In the next moment, little Fatty disappeared, leaving only the basket in his hand and the vegetables in it on the ground. Really, Brother Reynolds, why did you come back with injuries all over your body after going out for a while? In the room, Natalia sat in front of Reynolds, puffing out her two big cheeks as she spoke unhappily. Haha, I accidentally fell down. What? You can get burns from falling down. Still not telling the truth? Natalia touched Reynolds' arm with bad intentions, and he immediately stood up from the pain. Hey! In fact, the spell that Reynolds used on Avina was not a so-called healing spell. It was a special type of spell that could transfer wounds. Using some profound principles, it could transfer wounds from other people to oneself. Reynolds had used this spell to transfer the burns on Avina's arm to his own body. Really, why don't you think more for yourself? Reynolds explained the ins and outs of the matter to Natalia simply. Just as Reynolds said, he was indeed not good at using healing spells. If it weren't for the fact that I know healing magic, would you have waited for your wounds to heal? Reynolds scratched his head awkwardly. She guessed right. Natalia pulled up Reynolds' sleeve and then used a wood element healing spell on the wound. Wood healing. Natalia's palm slowly emitted bits of green fluorescent light that floated towards Reynolds' wound. The area that was burned by the fire became cool, and in a short while, Reynolds' injury had already healed. Haha, as expected of Natalia. That's amazing. Reynolds immediately stood up, as if he had forgotten the pain. Natalia blushed when she heard Reynolds' praise. Brother Reynolds, you have to promise me that you won't do this kind of thing again. You are the Lord Demon King of our demon race. How can you hurt yourself just for a human? I know. I wonder what's so good about that girl named Avina 3000. Why is the Devil King so? Natalia muttered in a low voice. Looking at her jealous expression, no one knew what she was thinking. Of course, Reynolds did not hear her. On this day, it wasn't too far away from the start of the Holy Sword Dance Eastern Region Selection Competition. Let's summarize the current cultivation gains of Avina and Tizia. Avina obtained a large spider corpse, which greatly increased her magic capacity. Her physical fitness and stamina also increased by a lot due to her daily morning jogging. Of course, the most important thing was that she obtained a simplified version of the Black Disc Magic book from Reynolds. This magic turned out to be a special type of magic called Black Hole. After so many days of study and hard work, Avina finally grasped a little bit of it. Lamy Natalia had obtained a set of 6 divine wings. Because of the magic particles, his physical fitness had also improved greatly. Thanks to Reynolds, his body was filled with dense wood element magic power, and his recovery ability had improved significantly. Hey, what the hell is this explanation that sounds like a game system? Speaking of the fact that her body was filled with wood element magic, perhaps even Tizia herself might not know about it. In fact, Tizia had mentioned it before when they were training in the open space, but she had probably forgotten about it by now. Simply put, wood element magic had a very strong recovery ability. Avina's parents were actually a pair of very good examples. It was precisely because of the vines wrapped around their bodies that kept transferring a large amount of wood element magic into their bodies that the bodies of Avina's parents could be preserved. It was precisely because Reynolds knew about this that he tested Tizia during the competition with a strength that was almost beyond what she could bear. The air outside is still the best. Reynolds stretched his body and slowly walked out of the room, looking at the clouds in the sky. This kind of life is still the most comfortable. Reynolds found a slope and quietly lay on it. He did not know why, but he actually felt very happy when he silently looked at the clouds floating by. Black hole! Reynolds stretched out his hand and took out a small golden box with blue eyes from the black disk. There were patterns inlaid with rubies on it, and it definitely looked like a very expensive treasure. Reynolds had always been known for his frugality. Although he was the Demon King, he rarely did extravagant and wasteful things. For example, when he ate, he would never leave a single grain of rice behind, and when he bought something, he would always return a third of the price. Well, except for the occasional times when he would steal something from his younger brother, Yushin, to buy food, he could be said to be very thrifty. Reynolds gently stroked the small golden box. Pata! He then took out a small booklet that was already a little yellow. The cover of the booklet was hand-painted, and it was a painting of the blue sky and birds. At the same time, there were also many other booklets in the luxurious box. Reynolds had preserved them so well, it seemed that he really cherished them very much. These booklets were all of the same size and recorded all of the good memories that Reynolds had experienced. Every time there was something worth being happy about, Reynolds would record it in a combination of pictures and words in the booklet. Opening the booklet with the sky and birds on the cover, there was already some content inside. On the first page, there was a painting of a very beautiful and cute white-haired young man riding a big white rabbit lost in the forest. On the second page, there was a painting of a white-haired young man and a big white rabbit standing in front of the gate of the Sun Mengshu Magic Academy and looking up at the signboard. Chapter 637. On the third page, there was a girl with blonde hair and light orange eyes who was fighting with a boy with white hair for a drumstick. On the fourth page, there was a girl with short, dark, purple hair. Looking at the pictures on the album, flipping page by page, Reynolds unconsciously revealed a very happy expression on his face. He then continued to flip. He flipped very slowly, afraid that he would miss something. After a while, Reynolds finally found a blank piece of paper. He waved his hand, and a paintbrush appeared. He placed the back end of the paintbrush against his small head, tilted his head, and thought for a moment. Then, he gently wrote on the paper. The corners of his mouth unconsciously curved upwards. He looked really happy. The territory of the 3,000 aristocratic families was very big, and they ruled a small city in the eastern border region. The territory here was vast, and there were rich mineral resources and land resources. It was widely known among the human race that the demon race was incomparably ferocious, killing people on sight. The entire eastern border region was close to the demon race's ruling area, so the prosperity here was slightly behind the other regions. "Dad, Mom, I'm back." A very pleasant and clear voice sounded. "My baby is finally back, after many days of trekking, although there were a few small accidents on the way." "Hey, you call being robbed an accident?" Avina returned home smoothly. According to the standard of the country, aristocrats must live in high-end houses and use luxurious equipment. Regarding this rigid rule, there were actually many simple ministers who opposed it, but they were all rejected by the king's words, "We aristocrats should be superior." Although the area ruled by the 3,000 aristocratic families was not rich, and the basic necessities could barely reach the standard of food and clothing, the people living on this land lived a very happy and comfortable life. The Lord, Avina's father, never collected high taxes, and if there was something good, he would even share it with the people, so he was very loved and respected by the people. Since returning to the small city, the people on the street instantly recognized Avina. "Oh, isn't this Miss 3000? We have some delicious fruits in our store. Quick, take some. Your lousy fruits can't make you hungry, miss. Come and eat the fresh fish I just caught." Everyone on the street greeted AI Wayna warmly. This was all thanks to the popularity she had accumulated over the years. "Daughter, I've seen the letter you sent back. It's really amazing to represent the Academy in the Sacred Sword Dance Festival. Dad, I'm so happy for you." Avina's father sat excitedly on the sofa with snot and tears running down his face. This man looked quite mighty. He was 188 meters tall, and his black hair was like a spiky ball. His name was San Qianwu. "You're already so old, yet you're still sticking to me like a child." Avina complained. "What? My daughter, don't you love your father anymore?" "Well, it seems that I can only go to the fruit orchard and use my blood to water the fruit trees that they carefully care for. Then I will go to the sea to fish and use my body to feed the small fish that are still crying for food. I hope that they will have a good harvest next year." After saying that, San Qianwu patted his knees and slowly stood up. Yes, his movements were very slow. Hey, I'm already out the door. Why isn't anyone stopping me yet?" San Qianwu peeked at the living room from the corner of his eyes and realized that AI Wayna was happily chatting with her mother. Finally, realizing that the 3000 Epiphany was still moving slowly, Awina's mother turned around. "Hey, why aren't you out yet? Do you want me to give you a ride?" "Hey, daughter, save me." San Qianwu cast a glance at Avina, secretly hinting for her to quickly come and save him. Unfortunately, there was no movement from Avina's side. "My daughter, I feel that she is getting farther and farther away from me." San Qianwu suddenly had an idea and thought of a way to get out of his current predicament. "Hey, my daughter, why did you suddenly think of going home? Could it be that you miss your father?" Unfortunately, he didn't dare to say the words that followed because he had already seen the murderous gaze that his wife shot over. Avina's mother looked very young. Her long purple hair was like a 3,000 feet long waterfall hanging behind her head. Her black eyes revealed a mysterious beauty. Yes, as expected, the daughter had inherited her mother's excellent genes. "Oh right, Avina, why did you suddenly come home?" Yes successfully diverted her attention. "Wait, what does yes mean?" "It's about the preparation for the Sacred Sword Dance Festival. Our new teacher specially took us through special training in order to improve the strength of me, Tizia, and another classmate." Yes, and then San Qianwu sat on the sofa next to her and said, "Hey, when did you come back?" Don't mind it. Ha ha ha. "Our teacher told me to go home first and accept the inheritance of heterochromatic pupils. That way, my strength will increase greatly. By the way, Mom, what exactly is our family's heterochromatic pupils?" When Avina's parents heard this, they couldn't help but look at each other, then asked hesitantly, "Who is your teacher? How did he know about our heterochromatic pupils?" When Avina saw that her parents' reaction was a little strange, she began to speak the truth a little hesitantly. "He said that if I gave this to you, you would know." Avina took out the badge that Reynolds gave her and placed it on the table. "This is..." Both of their pupils shrank, then suddenly stood up, took the badge on the table, and went back to the house. "Avina, go out and play for a while. We will come out in a moment." "Oh, Jing, it's definitely Jing." Yes, it seems that what will come in the end. Jing was the name of Avina's mother. Her full name was San Qianjing. San Qianwu took out a scroll made of parchment from a secret compartment in the cupboard in the room. This scroll was left behind by his great-grandfather, and it recorded all kinds of things that happened to San Qianwu's family. "Avina, come here," San Qianwu shouted from upstairs. Oh, when she came to her parents' room, Avina saw that the curtains were tightly closed, and a purple magic array was floating in the air. That was a magic array that blocked the sound in the room, so that the things that were discussed in the room wouldn't be heard outside. Gulp! Avina swallowed a mouthful of saliva. It seemed that there was something serious to talk about. Chapter 638. The door closed naturally with a gust of air released by Jing. Avina looked. San Qian Wu threw out the scroll in his hand, and then the scroll lit up and floated in the air. With a wave of his hand, the brown hemp rope that bound the scroll fell to the ground, and the scroll slowly unfolded in the air. This scroll is my great-grandfather's record of something that happened to our San Qian Wu family in his generation. 1,000 years ago, the human race started a war with the demon race, and the war lasted for thousands of years. At that time, my great-grandfather was a doctor, rushing to various big cities and small mountain villages. He deeply felt that the lives of the people were unbearably difficult because of the war. So he proposed a truce to the king, but my great-grandfather's proposal was not adopted by the king. At the same time, my great-grandfather was chased by the radical faction. At this point, San Qian Wu was stuck, as if he didn't want to continue. And then? Avina asked anxiously. She felt as if she was listening to a story halfway through, and the story was already tantalizing, but she suddenly stopped talking. The radical faction's chase was very fast. They even sent a magus to chase after my great-grandfather. In desperation, my great-grandfather came to the border of the demon race, but the war there was tense. My great-grandfather was attacked as a spy, but was later rescued by someone? Rescued? Then what does this have to do with the badge that teacher gave me? The person who saved my great-grandfather brought him to the demon world and took good care of him, as if he was a guest. Avina was a little confused. Isn't there a war? How can they still treat humans as guests? When my great-grandfather came to the demon world, everything he saw was very different from the rumors. Although the demon race lived in groups according to the tribe at that time, and the standard of living was backward, there was no such thing as a homicidal maniac. At least that was the case in that tribe. My great-grandfather asked the person who saved him why he saved him. So that person explained the purpose of his visit to my great-grandfather. In fact, a good friend of his had passed away due to illness. But he collected that person's soul, and he wanted my great-grandfather to sign a contract. Contract? Yes, it's a contract. The contract is to combine the soul of that friend with the descendant of great-grandfather. If there is an existence in the descendant with a high compatibility with the soul, then the soul will merge with the existence with a high compatibility. But this is equivalent to resurrection. How can such a thing exist? Indeed, although I can't believe it, it's true. Avina's mother continued the topic and continued in a very gentle voice. The heterochromatic pupils is actually the proof of the contract. My great-grandfather once asked why they were heterochromatic pupils. It is said that this is an ability of my Savior's friend. His friend was also a magic genius. Because of a research accident, her two eyes were different colors, but at the same time, it gave her special abilities. That's right, my great-grandfather, of course, my Savior's father. When my Savior saved my great-grandfather's grandfather, he said that when you see this badge, it of me of my Savior. S of this. Avina, what's your teacher like? His name is Renaud, but he looks very young and handsome. Since great-grandfather's Savior was from 100 years ago, then he can't be my teacher. Handsome? Your teacher is a woman? No, he's a man. He's very gentle and strong. Even stronger than Dad. Avina, do you know why I didn't let you train your heterochromatic pupils when you were young? I don't know. Avina shook her head. It's because you're the one with the highest compatibility. Avina's heart skipped a beat. Dad and Mom's heterochromatic pupils can be concealed, but your heterochromatic pupils can't be concealed. That's not right. Shouldn't it be that the higher the compatibility, the better it can be concealed? Think about it. If the left side of a cup is filled with water and the right side of the cup is filled with ink, then we can change the direction of the cup so that others will see the murky ink. But when there is only water in the cup, then no matter how you adjust the direction, it will always be water. Oh. Finally, under her father's explanation, Avina completely fell into the endless cycle of reincarnation. I don't understand. Dad and Mom are just worried that after you train your heterochromatic pupils, you'll become that unknown so-called friend. It's fine, Dad and Mom. Avina sighed with relief. So that's the reason. Dad and Mom, don't worry. I, Avina, will always be your good daughter. Daughter, San Xianjing nodded with relief. My daughter, you're right. I'll always love you. Wu was so moved that he cried. His appearance was a huge contrast with his figure. After a short while, Avina received the parchment and a thick book from her father. According to her father, the book recorded the relevant information about heterochromatic pupils and the training method, but only the one with the highest compatibility could open it. The cover of the book was also a little shabby. The color was blue, but now it had already turned gray. There were two incomprehensible figures at the bottom right corner of the cover, and they didn't know what they meant. Avina went back to her room. She hadn't been back for a long time, and it felt so good. After a comfortable bath, Avina sat on her bed in her pajamas. Her hair was still a little wet, and there was a trace of redness on her face. Obviously, it was the reaction after the bath. In order to create a historical atmosphere, Avina specially turned on a small lamp above her head and then sat in the middle of the bed with her legs crossed. The pajamas were the fluffy and cute bunny style. Since the last time she saw Reynolds' pajamas in his room, Avina spent a lot of effort to get the same style of pajamas. However, the pajamas she was wearing were white. When she lay on the ground, she looked like a big abai. Just like what San Chinwu said, the parchment did indeed record the past experiences of his great-grandfather, Avina's great-grandfather. Avina skimmed through the parchment. As she continued reading, Avina finally understood why her parents practiced heterochromatic pupils. According to the parchment, once Avina fully mastered heterochromatic pupils, she would completely unlock the memories of the friend who saved her great-grandfather's life. Perhaps she wouldn't be the current Avina. Chapter 639. Reading this, Avina cheered herself up. Come on, Avina. You'll definitely defeat that person's memory. She skimmed through the parchment a few more times and finally finished reading it. Avina put the parchment into the drawer of her bedside table, then picked up the heavy book. There was always an indescribable feeling. AI Wayna always felt that this book had some slight attraction to her. Flipping open the faded cover, what appeared next was a bunch of densely packed words. It seems that I'm indeed the most compatible one. When you read this book, I'll be so proud of you. Hey, why are there still typos? Then, the same content appeared on the next line. When you read this book, congratulations. You've inherited the will of my best friend. Oh, I even started a new line and started writing again. In the following days, Avina even read the book that recorded the information about heterochromatic pupils like a storybook. After all, the book was full of typos and scribbles. At the beginning of the book, there were a lot of typos. It was okay to write congratulations as congratulations, but later on, there was even a will as unfulfilled will, which made Anna laugh. Later on, because there were too many typos, the author didn't even bother to write a new line. Instead, she just used ink to write across on the previous typos to deal with it. As Avina read, she suddenly found some jagged edges on the inside of the book. It seemed that a page had been torn off. Combined with the ink mark on the next page, it seemed that the page had been torn off. Yes. Sure enough, there were too many typos, which caused the page to be torn off in anger. I don't know why, but the tone of this book is very familiar. Avina continued reading. As expected, as the narrative continued, the words recorded in the book became uglier and uglier. It was like a primary school student writing a 1,000-word essay. The more he wrote, the more impatient he became. In the end, he let himself loose. Haha, it's really like Mr. Reynolds. Somewhere at this time. Achoo, someone is speaking ill of me. After reading to the end, Avina slowly closed the book. Her slightly depressed mood suddenly brightened up because of the book. In short, this book was about the abilities and cultivation methods of heterochromatic pupils. Avina went through the important points in the book in her mind. Heterochromatic pupil can give the user the ability to see through and enhance. It can see through the facade and directly attack the essence of the target. However, it will also increase the consumption of magic power. It is like a double-edged sword. Whether it is good or bad depends on the user's judgment. Wow, she's very smart. The rabbit tail on Avina's pajamas swayed, looking a little charming. According to the book, in order to perfectly control the power of heterochromatic eyes, one had to draw a magic array with their own mana. Then, they had to implant the magic array into the eyeball. Through constant control of the magic array, they could control the power of heterochromatic eyes. Avina thought for a moment. Theoretically speaking, this method should work. I can give it a try. There was a picture of this magic array in the book. It seemed to be a huge project. The magic array, corresponding to ordinary magic, was composed of several layers of circles and runes. However, this magic array actually had a six-pointed star and an inverted triangle. This greatly increased the difficulty of drawing the magic array. Every stroke had to be perfectly symmetrical. Fortunately, there were still 2 weeks before the Sacred Sword Dance World's Eastern Region preliminaries, the 7 schools skipping competition. Otherwise, she was afraid that she wouldn't have enough time. I'll do it tomorrow. Sleep. Sleep. Avina lifted the quilt under her butt and crawled under it. She was still holding the book with many wrong words in her arms. She felt that it had Mr. Reynolds' scent. After a while, she fell into a deep sleep. Cuckoo, cuckoo. The sound of cuckoo birds chirping came from outside the window. It was a little noisy. Avina sat up from the bed, stretched, and yawned. I slept so well. Her hair was a mess, and even the bunny pajamas she was wearing had some creases. The originally smiling bunny head hat hanging behind her neck was also pressed into a crying face. It feels so good to be home. Cuckoo birds chirped during the day. Hey, today was her first day back home. She couldn't waste such a good time. After all, the 7 schools skipping competition was not far away. Avina's room was very big. After all, there was another lazy person living here, Avina. Avina was adopted by the 3,000 families after the tragedy in Hope Village. Her family was very good to her. Avina was also very willing to be friends with her. The relationship between the two could be said to be very good. How good was it? Let's give a few examples. First of all, the two of them shared a room. On the left and right sides of the room, there were 2 beds with different styles. Avina's bed was warm, while Avina's bed was very warm. The two of them were inseparable, just like twins. Therefore, some of the tableware, toiletries, and other things were also bought as a pair. I wonder how Avina is now. Hey, that drumstick is mine. Oomph. Have you ever heard of the saying, first strike first? Oomph, I knew it. Luckily, I was more skillful and spat my saliva on the drumstick in advance. Enjoy it slowly. You're so evil. You flatter me. You flatter me. At this moment, Reynolds reluctantly put the drumstick in his hand back on the plate. The next moment, it was snatched away by Avina, who was sitting opposite him. Brother Reynolds, you can eat mine. Gio gave the drumstick in her bowl to Reynolds. I'm so touched. Oh, Avina saw someone put the drumstick in Reynolds's bowl. Her 2 cheeks suddenly puffed up like 2 big balloons, looking a little like a toad. Then she put on a pitiful look and looked at Lilith with a pleading look. Lilith was about to bite the drumstick in her mouth when she suddenly felt something dazzling beside her. She glanced sideways and saw Avina looking at her with tears in the corners of her eyes. Lilith looked at Avina and then looked at the drumstick in her hand. It seemed that she was struggling with something. Finally, Chapter 640. If you don't mind, you can have mine. Thank you so much. Avina snatched away the drumstick that originally belonged to Lilith. Don't bully Lilith, okay? Reynolds had no choice but to give Lilith Gio's drumstick. Back to the 3,000 families. Avina, who had just finished breakfast with her parents, went to a small hill in the town by herself. This place was relatively empty, and almost no one knew about this place. Therefore, Avina treated this place as a secret base that belonged only to the two of them. Sigh. Avina sighed. She couldn't help but think of the look on her father's face when they were eating just now. "Haha, my daughter. Come and try the bento made by your father." Eh. The expression of the 3,000 families appeared in her mind again. Avina shook her head hard and threw all the distracting thoughts in her mind to the back of her head. "I don't have much time left. I have to quickly master my heterochromatic pupils." Avina also brought the funny book over. She turned to the page with the magic array and calmed down to carefully observe it. After a while, Avina closed her eyes and used her heart to feel the mystery of the magic array. She reconstructed its appearance in her mind. She slowly raised her right hand. The tip of her index finger emitted a blue light. The tip of her finger spun along with the movement of her wrist, leaving a circle formed by water magic in the air. Okay, the first step is completed. Immediately after, Avina wrote a bunch of runes on the inner circle as a medium. Her fingertip began to move again. The next step was to draw a hexagram inside the runes. This time, she drew very slowly. Her speed was probably slower than a turtle's crawl. Yes, men can't be too fast. Although Avina is a woman. Suddenly, with a bang, Avina's hand trembled and directly caused the magic array in the air to break. "It's so difficult." Avina sighed. This was not only a big test of one's magic storage, but also a test of one's concentration. Again, just like that, everyone finally stepped into the door of magic. Avina wanted to walk the path of a magic swordsman. To put it bluntly, she wanted to be a swordsman who used magic to strengthen her melee combat abilities. This position would often play the role of restricting the enemy's attacks, attracting firepower, and attacking the front line. According to the latest notice that had just been passed down yesterday, this year's 7-school skipping competition would be conducted using the isolated island battle, which was ranked first in the voting list. The rules of the competition were very simple. They would use an extremely rare spatial magic array to teleport the referee and the participating teams to an uninhabited island. 3 people would be in a team, and each member would carry a small flag. As long as the small flag was taken away, that member would also be eliminated, and the last 3 teams remaining on the island would win. In other words, this competition is a test of the team's tacit understanding. Reynolds was lying on the table, yawning nonstop. Oh, in order to focus on improving the overall level of this team, Reynolds didn't waste his time. The fact that a lazy bum like Reynolds could happily come up with a strategic plan showed how much importance he attached to this 7-school jump. Should I give them an S-rank destruction spell? No, that would be against the rules, and it wouldn't be interesting. Reynolds thought for a moment. I've decided. I'll teach them an A-rank detection spell. Reynolds called over Lilith, who had been diligently practicing magic, and discovered that Lilith was now able to completely master this miniature black hole spell. "Lilith, I came to find you this time, mainly because of the 7 schools skipping competition." After that, Reynolds briefly explained the latest rules of the 7 schools skipping competition to Lilith, and then taught her a magic incantation. It was said that through this spell, one could instantly obtain the position of their teammates and communicate with them across space, using this effect to achieve an unexpected surprise attack. Lilith was also quite smart. She could remember most of it after Reynolds explained it once. Lilith didn't ask what level of magic it was, because Reynolds was already close to an omnipotent existence in her eyes. Magic and theories, such as creation research and black hole, were all things that would shock the world if they were brought out, and Reynolds actually taught them to an outsider, as if they were cabbages. This showed how amazing he was. After returning from Lilith's place, Reynolds immediately went to Avina's place. Avina was currently cultivating in another part of the forest. In order to cater to her cultivation method, Reynolds specially created an open space for her. He used magic to move hundreds of trees to a place with relatively less vegetation, leaving only a very lush patch of grass growing on the ground. Then, he placed a very large and very tall wooden stake in the middle of the grass, and Avina was currently sitting on it. Oh, Reynolds saw from afar that there were countless dark green magic particles in the sky, gradually surging into Avina's body, and her temperament suddenly became more gentle. "Avina, Renault shouted. Reynolds, idiot. Hey, in any case, I'm still your teacher. Can you give me some face? Avina slowly opened her eyes, and Reynolds seemed to see a trace of green light appear in her eyes. But it was only for a moment. Bang! Avina jumped down from the wooden stake. Where's the food? What food? I'm not here to deliver food. Tisk, then what are you doing here? Hey, at least pretend to be happy. You're hurting my young heart. Avina glanced at Reynolds. You're not young anymore, and you're still acting cute like a child. I'm very young in the Eternal Night clan, okay? Reynolds sighed helplessly and brought the topic back to the main topic. This time, I'm mainly here to tell you that the rules adopted for the 7 schools leap this time are isolated island battles, the so-called isolated island battles. What? Isolated island battles? Avina appeared very agitated. Can you wait for me to finish before you get agitated? Sorry. Obviously, Avina's apology was very superficial. I took some time to read all the information about the holy sword song and dance festivals that were held in the past, and the one that left the deepest impression on me was this isolated island battles. Avina gulped and continued to talk nonstop. This is like surviving in the wilderness. It sounds especially fun, and it especially tests the contestants' ability to sustain combat and adapt to changing situations. I'm looking forward to sparring with those experts. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.